Hello friends. Welcome to the Saiyan What Ifs. How are you all? So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Goku and Broly fused permanently. Also be sure to subscribe and like this video. Now let's begin. Chapter 1. The Merging of Legends. The pocket dimension fractured like glass beneath the weight of their power. Crystalline shards of reality hung suspended in the void, each reflecting distorted images of the two warriors locked in combat. Son Goku, Earth's greatest defender, his blue aura of Super Saiyan God radiating control even as his muscles strained against the overwhelming force opposing him. Broly, the legendary Super Saiyan, emerald energy erupting from his massive frame in chaotic bursts that threatened to tear the very fabric of existence. Neither warrior noticed the dimensional anchors failing one by one, too consumed by their battle. Neither saw the strange geometric patterns forming in the space between them. Reality folding upon itself in ways that defied comprehension. Broly, we don't have to do this. Goku shouted, his voice barely carrying through the roaring tempest of their clashing ki. Feel the dimension breaking around us. If we don't stop, we'll both be trapped here forever. Broly's response came as a primal roar, his consciousness still partially submerged beneath layers of rage and pain. Yet somewhere deep within those wild eyes, recognition flickered, not of Goku as an enemy, but of the danger surrounding them both. The pocket dimension had been Whis' creation, a temporary training ground where gods and mortals could battle without threatening inhabited worlds. But even the angel's craftsmanship had limits, and those limits had been reached. A latticework of actors spread across the dimensional boundaries, cosmic energy bleeding through the gaps. We need to leave now. Goku placed 2 fingers to his forehead, attempting to lock onto any familiar energy signature outside this collapsing reality. His eyes widened in alarm. The dimensional walls are too thick, instant transmission can't penetrate them. For the first time, uncertainty crossed Broly's face. His aura fluctuated, power levels dropping momentarily as clarity returned to his eyes. Trapped? He asked, the single word carrying the weight of his tortured history of isolation. At that moment, a new presence materialized between them, a slender figure wrapped in flowing garments that seemed woven from starlight itself. Her skin possessed a subtle lavender hue, and her eyes held the depth of ancient galaxies. A complex geometric symbol glowed upon her forehead. This dimensional collapse was not foreseen, she stated, her voice resonating with authority despite its softness. I am Zia, guardian of the 7th boundary. I've come to extract you before. Her eyes widened as she observed the dimensional fractures more closely. No. The patterns, this isn't merely collapse. It's convergence. Goku lowered his guard slightly. What do you mean? Can you get us out of here? Zia's expression remained composed, but subtle alarm flickered across her features. This wasn't in the cosmic ledger. Your battle has triggered something unprecedented. Her fingers traced elegant patterns in the air, leaving trails of luminescent symbols. The dimension isn't just breaking, it's creating a focal point for a forbidden phenomenon. Broly growled, his patience wearing thin. Speak clearly, woman. The boundaries between your life forces are dissolving along with this dimension, Zia explained. Her voice carrying unmistakable gravity. Your key signatures are becoming entangled at a fundamental level. If you remain here when the final collapse occurs. A violent tremor interrupted her. Reality itself convulsing around them. Sections of the dimension began to implode, creating swirling vortices of energy that pulled at the 3 beings from all directions. We need to leave immediately. Zia extended her hands toward both Saiyans. I can extract you, but only if we. Another tremor, more violent than the first, sent all 3 tumbling through the fractured space. Goku managed to stabilize himself first, instinctively reaching out to grab Broly's arm with one hand and Zia's wrist with the other. The moment of contact created a circuit, a path of least resistance for the chaotic energies swirling around them. No. Zia's eyes widened in genuine fear. Breaking physical contact is now vital. Your energies are too late. The dimension reached critical failure, imploding with catastrophic force. The last thing Goku registered was Broly's surprised expression mirroring his own as their auras, blue and green, began to intermingle, then merge. Pain unlike anything he'd ever experienced coursed through his body as his very atoms seemed to disassemble and reconfigure. Consciousness fragmented, then multiplied, then unified in ways impossible to comprehend. Then darkness. Awareness returned in disorienting fragments. The sensation of breathing, but the rhythm felt wrong, too deep, too powerful for the lungs he was accustomed to. The weight of his body against solid ground. But the proportions seemed distorted. Longer limbs, broader shoulders than memory suggested. The steady thrumming of energy beneath his skin, but with unfamiliar currents and ease that flowed through pathways he didn't recognize. He opened his eyes. A sky of impossible colors stretched overhead, neither the blue of Earth nor the red of Vampa, but something between, a violet expanse streaked with luminescent clouds that moved too quickly for natural formations. The merger is complete, came a voice, Zia's voice, from somewhere nearby. And stable, against all cosmic probability. He sat up, the motion fluid despite his confusion, and looked down at his hands. They were his hands, yet not larger than Goku's had been, with more pronounced knuckles, but smaller and less brutish than Broly's. The skin tone fell between their complexions, and strange energy patterns pulsed beneath the surface, blue and green currents intertwining like river systems viewed from great height. What? The voice that emerged from his throat startled him, a resonant baritone carrying harmonic undertones, as though two voices spoke in perfect unison. What happened to me? To us? Zia stood several paces away, her posture cautious, hands positioned to form defensive sigils if necessary. You've undergone permanent fusion at the quantum level, she explained, professional detachment barely masking her fascination. Not like the fusion dance or Patara earrings, which create temporary mergers. This is an entirely new phenomenon, a complete integration of two distinct life forces into a singular existence. He rose to his feet in one fluid motion, noting with surprise that his body already felt natural, as though he'd inhabited it for years rather than minutes. His height seemed to have settled between Goku's and Broly's, taller than the former but less imposing than the latter. Running his hands through his hair, he found it spikier than Broly's wild mane but longer than Goku's characteristic style, with subtle green highlights visible when he pulled a strand before his eyes. I remember everything, he said slowly, sorting through the cascade of memories. Goku's childhood on Earth, Broly's isolation on Vampa, every battle, every moment of both lives with perfect clarity, but you don't feel like either of them, do you? Zia observed, taking a tentative step closer. You have their memories, but experience them as though watching someone else's life. Yes, he nodded, surprising himself with how naturally the assessment felt. I'm not Goku. I'm not Broly. I'm something new. You require a designation, Zia stated practically. The cosmic registry will demand identification for this unprecedented entity. He considered this, thoughts from both original personalities contributing to the deliberation. The playful creativity of Goku suggested combinations, Broku, Goly. The pragmatic directness of Broly preferred functionality over cleverness. Goly, he decided finally. Simple enough to remember, acknowledging both sources without favoritism. Zia nodded, raising her hand to trace glowing symbols in the air. Designation accepted and recorded. The symbols coalesced into a complex glyph that briefly flared before fading. Welcome to existence, Goly of the dual lineage. For the first time, Goly took in his surroundings properly. They stood on what appeared to be a floating island of stone and crystalline formations, suspended in a vast expanse that defied conventional spatial understanding. In the distance, similar islands hung motionless, connected by threads of energy too thin to traverse. The sky, if it could be called that, shifted between deep violet and midnight blue, with occasional pulses of light racing across its surface. Where are we? Goly asked. This isn't the pocket dimension. And it's certainly not Earth or any planet I, either of my former selves, recognize. This is an interstitial realm, Zia explained, gesturing to the impossible landscape. A buffer zone between dimensional boundaries. When the pocket dimension collapsed, I attempted emergency extraction. However, the fusion process generated such unique energy signatures that standard extraction protocols failed. We were deflected here, fortunate, as any inhabited dimension might have been catastrophically destabilized by your emergence. Goly processed this information with surprising equanimity. The concept would have bewildered Goku and meant little to Broly, but his new integrated consciousness found the explanation perfectly sensible. "How do we leave?" he asked practically. Zia's expression turned grave. "That presents complications. Your energy signature is unprecedented, divine power combined with legendary potential. Further transformed by the fusion process itself. No existing dimensional gateway is calibrated for such an energy pattern." Goku considered this, then raised his hand, 2 fingers pressed to his forehead in Goku's familiar gesture. He closed his eyes, reaching out with his senses, and found himself perceiving reality in ways neither Goku nor Broly ever had. Energy signatures bloomed across vast distances, not just detecting ki but seeing the very weave of dimensional boundaries. "I can sense multiple realities," he said with wonder. "Earth exists in several variations, each slightly different. And that's Beerus's world. But somehow both closer and farther than it should be." Zia's eyes widened. "You can perceive the dimensional latticework. Even Guardian adepts require centuries of training to develop such perception." Goku nodded. "I can see the pathways between realms. I think." He concentrated harder, focusing on the familiar energy signatures of Earth. "I can create a passage. But it will take tremendous power." "Wait." Zia's voice carried genuine alarm. "Unauthorized dimensional traversal could." Too late. Goku's aura erupted around him, not the blue of Super Saiyan God or the green of the legendary Super Saiyan, but a teal radiance that combined both energies into something entirely new. The power flowed not just outward but between, threading itself through the fabric of reality. Space tore open before him, creating a swirling vortex of energy. Unlike Goku's instant transmission, which simply moved the user, this technique physically connected 2 points in the multiverse. Dimensional rift, Goku named it instinctively, as though the knowledge had always existed within him, merely waiting to be accessed. Zia stared in astonishment, her composed demeanor cracking. "This violates dozens of cosmic protocols. The energy expenditure alone should." She stopped mid-sentence, observing with professional interest. "You're not experiencing power depletion." "Fascinating." Goku stepped toward the portal, then paused, looking back at Zia. "Are you coming?" She hesitated, clearly torn between duty and curiosity. "I should report this incident to the Council of Observers immediately." A spontaneous permanent fusion event followed by natural dimensional rifting ability. This defies millennia of established cosmic law. "Report later." Goku jested with a hint of Goku's carefree attitude. "Don't you want to observe this anomaly directly? For research purposes." A brief smile touched Zia's lips, quickly suppressed. "Your argument has merit. Direct observation will provide valuable data for the Council." She moved to his side with elegant precision. "Lead on." Fusion anomaly. Together, they stepped through the dimensional rift. They emerged on a rocky plateau overlooking dense forest, Earth, but not quite in the location Goku had intended. The rift sealed behind them with a sound like thunder, causing birds to take flight from nearby trees. In the distance, mountains rose against a clear blue sky, their peaks dusted with snow despite the summer warmth. Goku oriented himself quickly. Northern mountains, about 300 miles from where Goku lived. Quote, Zia appeared unaffected by the transition, though her eyes scanned their surroundings with clinical interest. "Your dimensional navigation requires refinement, but achieving correct planetary targeting on your first attempt is impressive nonetheless." A flicker of movement caught Goku's attention, a presence approaching rapidly through the air. His enhance, deep perception identified the energy signature immediately, though it felt both familiar and strangely distant, like recognizing a song from childhood. "Vegeta," he murmured as the figure became visible, streaking toward them with purposeful speed. The Saiyan prince halted abruptly 30 feet away, hovering in midair with arms crossed and expression suspicious. His eyes narrowed as he took in Goku's appearance. "I sensed a massive energy disturbance," Vegeta stated bluntly. "And now I find." He paused, scrutinizing Goku more carefully. "You're neither Kakarot nor Broly, yet somehow both. Explain yourself before I blast you back to whatever dimension spawned you." Goku found himself smiling, a reaction stemming from Goku's fondness for his rival rather than Broly's instinctive aggression. "It's complicated, Vegeta. There was an accident during their battle in the training dimension. A fusion." Vegeta descended to the ground, maintaining a cautious distance. But not Metamoran or Patara. Your energy signature is singular. His gaze shifted to Zia. And who is this? Another otherworldly complication. Zia inclined her head slightly, the minimal acknowledgement betraying her elevated status. I am Zia, guardian of the seventh boundary and observer of dimensional protocols. I've accompanied this entity following an unprecedented fusion event that appears to be permanent in nature. Vegeta's expression darkened. Permanent? You mean Kakarot is gone for good? The question struck Goku with unexpected force. He hadn't fully considered the implications of his existence. Had it meant the effective death of both Goku and Broly as independent beings? Not gone, he answered carefully. Transformed. I have their memories, their powers, their essence. But I'm something new, something different. HMPH. Vegeta's scowl deepened. Convenient for you, perhaps. But what about Kakarot's family? His responsibilities? Are they supposed to accept this stranger with a familiar face? The question wasn't merely rhetorical. Genuine concern underlay Vegeta's harsh tone, concern that would have surprised Goku despite their years of friendship. I need to see them, Goku realized aloud. Chi-Chi, Gohan, Goten. Quote, and what of Broly's father? Zia inquired. My records indicate a parental unit still existed, though on a different planet. Goku's expression darkened momentarily, Broly's complicated feelings toward Paragus surfacing. Paragus is dead, killed by Frieza during our last confrontation. Unfortunate, but simplified from a notification perspective, Zia noted pragmatically. Earth familial units remain the primary concern for integration purposes. Vegeta snorted at her clinical assessment. You cosmic types are all the same, detached from the realities of mortal existence. He returned his attention to Goku. I won't stop you from seeing Kakarot's family, but I'll be watching. If you prove to be a threat. I understand, Goku interrupted, Finn. Ding Broly's impatience with threats rising to the surface. Your caution is warranted, but unnecessary. I mean no harm to anyone on this planet. We'll see. Vegeta hovered upward. Follow me. It's time to introduce the world to whatever you've become. As they prepared to depart, a tremor passed through the ground beneath them. Subtle at first, then increasing in intensity until small rocks began to levitate. Surrounded by faint auras of energy. Curious, Zia observed, examining the phenomenon. Reality adjusting to your presence. Goku concentrated, pulling his energy inward with conscious effort. The tremors subsided, but a strange pattern remained visible to his enhanced perception, ripples in the dimensional fabric spreading outward from his location. Your existence creates natural instability, Zia explained. Reading his concerned expression, your component entities belong to this dimensional plane, but your combined form represents an equation the universe cannot easily balance. Meaning what, exactly? Vegeta demanded. Meaning his presence may have consequences, Zia replied carefully. Temporal anomalies, spatial distortions, potentially even causality fractures if left unchecked. Great, Vegeta muttered, as if we didn't have enough cosmic disasters to worry about. Goku concentrated, consciously modulating his energy output until the dimensional ripples subsided. I can control it, he stated with quiet confidence. It's like learning to suppress power levels, but working with different energy frequencies. Zia observed this adjustment with evident fascination. Self-regulation of transdimensional energy without prior training. Impossible by all established parameters. Kakarot always did have an annoying habit of achieving the impossible, Vegeta commented. A hint of reluctant admiration in his tone. Apparently that trait survived the fusion. He gestured impatiently. Come. The longer we delay, the more difficult this will become. The three took to the sky. Goku finding flight effortless despite his transformed body. As they soared over forests and mountains, he experienced a strange dual perspective, seeing Earth through both Goku's eyes of familiarity and Broly's perspective of novelty. The synthesis created a heightened awareness, noting details neither would have perceived independently. Your power level fluctuates unpredictably, Vegeta observed as they flew. One moment approaching godly ki, the next almost suppressed. Is that intentional? Partially, Goku answered. I'm still integrating two different approaches to energy manipulation. Goku's controlled technique versus Broly's raw output. Finding the balance is challenging. Zia, flying alongside them with surprising speed for her slender frame, offered her analysis. The fusion appears to be continuing at subtler levels. Neural pathways, energy circulation, even cellular structures are still harmonizing. I estimate complete integration will require approximately 72 Earth hours. And what happens then? Vegeta asked. Unknown, Zia admitted. No precedent exists for this phenomenon. The subject could stabilize entirely, develop new abilities as synthesis continues. Or, she paused delicately. Or destabilize catastrophically. Goalie finished for her, finding Broly's bluntness useful. You're concerned I might explode like an overloaded reactor. A crude but not entirely inaccurate analogy, Zia conceded. Hence my presence. The council will require continuous monitoring of your condition. Vegeta accelerated slightly, pulling ahead. All the more reason to resolve the family's situation quickly, before additional complications arise. They flew in silence for several minutes, each lost in their own thoughts. For Goalie, the internal landscape was uniquely complex, memories from 2 lifetimes interweaving, emotional responses blending and sometimes conflicting. Goku's optimism tempered Broly's wariness, Broly's intensity focused Goku's sometimes scattered attention. Mount Paozu appeared on the horizon, its familiar silhouette triggering a cascade of memories. Goku's home with Chi-Chi nestled in the valley below. The surrounding forests where he'd trained with Gohan, the streams where Goten learned to fish. Yet these memories carried a strange quality now, deeply familiar yet somehow distant, like looking at a childhood photograph. Goalie felt his heart rate increase as they began their descent. How would Chi-Chi react? Would she see anything of her husband in this new being? Would Goten recognize him? And Gohan? Scholarly, thoughtful Gohan. How would he process this transformation? They touched down in the clearing before the Sun family home. Smoke curled from the chimney, and laundry hung on lines S. Stretching between trees, ordinary domestic scenes that suddenly felt precious in their mundanity. The door opened before they could approach. Chi-Chi stepped out, alerted by the arrival of powerful energy signatures. She froze upon seeing the 3 visitors, her eyes fixed on Goalie with an expression that shifted rapidly from hope to confusion to wariness. Vegeta, she called, not taking her eyes off Goalie. Who is this? Why does he? Her voice faltered. Vegeta stepped forward. Chi-Chi, there's been an incident. The pocket dimension was created for training collapsed during Kakarot's battle with Broly. An incident. Her voice sharpened with growing alarm. Where's Goku? Why isn't he with you? Goalie moved forward slowly, instinctively raising his hands in a non-threatening gesture. Chi-Chi, he began. Then paused at the sound of his transformed voice, too different from Goku's to offer any comfort. What happened to my husband? Chi-Chi demanded, fear giving her voice a brittle edge. I'm here, Goalie said gently. Not as you knew me, but I'm here. Chi-Chi's expression hardened. You're not Goku. I know my husband. His energy, his presence, his voice. You're something else entirely. He is and isn't Kakarot. Vegeta explained with uncharacteristic patience. The dimensional collapse somehow caused Kakarot and Broly to fuse permanently. This is the result, a new being with elements of both. Chi-Chi stared at Goalie, disbelief warring with dawning comprehension. Fused, like Gotenks, but forever. Much deeper than conventional fusion techniques, Zia interjected, stepping forward with formal precision. A complete quantum-level integration of 2 distinct life forces. Irreversible by any known means. And you are? Chi-Chi asked, her practicality asserting itself even in shock. Zia, guardian of the 7th boundary. I've been assigned to monitor this unprecedented fusion event and its consequences. Chi-Chi's gaze returned to Goalie, studying him more. Carefully now, looking past the surface differences to more subtle cues. You have his eyes, she said softly. Not the color or shape, but the way they look at me. That's Goku in there, isn't it? Goalie nodded, emotion tightening his throat. Yes, all his memories, his feelings, his connection to you, I have them all. But integrated with Broly's experiences, creating something new. Mom, what's happening? A new voice joined the conversation as Goten appeared in the doorway, his young face curious but cautious. The sight of the boy hit Goalie with unexpected force, a wave of protective instinct. Court so powerful it momentarily overwhelmed him. Goku's paternal love blended with Broly's never-realized longing for family connection, creating something deeper than either had experienced individually. Goten, he managed, his voice rough with emotion. Who are you? Goten asked directly, moving to stand beside his mother. You feel like Dad, but different. Stronger, but wilder. Perceptive assessment, Zia murmured. Chi-Chi placed a protective hand on Goten's shoulder. This is complicated, sweetie. There was an accident during your father's training. Is Dad okay? Alarm filled Goten's young face. I'm okay. Goalie answered instinctively, then corrected himself. That is, Goku is part of me now. He and another Saiyan named Broly have become one person. Me. Goten's brow furrowed in concentration as he processed this. Like Gotenks. But you're not wearing Metamoran clothes. Despite the gravity of the situation, Goalie found himself smiling. No, not like Gotenks. This is different, permanent. I have a new name. Goalie. Goalie. Goten repeated, testing the sound. That's kind of cool, I guess. He studied Goalie with the direct curiosity of childhood. So you're part dad and part someone else. Do you still like fishing? Can you still go Super Saiyan? Do you remember teaching me the Kamehameha? The rapid-fire questions, so characteristic of Goten, struck Goalie with a wave of fondness. Yes to all of those. I remember everything your father did and felt. Those memories are part of me now. But you're not exactly him, Chi-Chi stated, her voice carefully controlled. No, Goalie admitted, I'm not exactly Goku anymore. Just as I'm not exactly Broly either. A new energy signature approached rapidly from the east. Gohan, undoubtedly sensing the strange gathering and coming to investigate. Moments later, he landed in the clearing, glasses slightly askew and wearing casual clothes rather than his fighting GI. Vegeta, Mom, his gaze fixed on Goalie, eyes widening as he processed what his senses were telling him. What's happening? This energy signature, it's like Dad and someone else combined. That assessment is precisely correct, Zia confirmed. Your father has undergone permanent fusion with the Saiyan known as Broly, creating a new integrated entity. Gohan's scholarly mind engaged immediately, processing the information faster than the others had. Permanent fusion, not Metamoran or Potara. How is that possible? Dimensional collapse created unique conditions, Zia explained, seeming pleased to find someone who approached the situation analytically. The pocket dimension's failure combined with their opposed energy signatures catalyzed quantum entanglement at the fundamental life force level. Fascinating, Gohan murmured, adjusting his glasses as he studied Goalie more carefully. And stable, no signs of degradation or separation. Completely stable, Zia confirmed. In fact, integration continues to strengthen rather than weaken. I see. Gohan's scientific interest gave way to personal concern as he addressed Goalie directly. And how does it feel? Are you aware of being both of them? Or something entirely new? The question struck Goalie as perfectly Gohan, thoughtful, cutting to the heart of the experience rather than just the physical mechanics. Both, he answered truthfully. I have their complete memories, their emotional connections, their knowledge and skills, but experiencing them through a new consciousness, a synthesis rather than either original personality. It's like, he searched for an analogy. Like two rivers joining to form something that contains both source waters but flows with its own current. Gohan nodded slowly. And Dad, his consciousness, his sense of self, it's preserved within that synthesis. Yes, Goalie affirmed, not dominant or separate, but preserved and integrated. A complex mixture of emotions crossed Gohan's face: scientific fascination, personal loss, cautious acceptance. Then we should welcome you. Though it may take time to adjust to this new reality. Chi-Chi seemed less certain, studying Goalie with an unreadable expression. You'll understand if we need time, she said finally. This is a lot to process. Of course, Goalie acknowledged, finding both Goku's understanding of his family's needs and Broly's respect for emotional boundaries guiding his response. I don't expect immediate acceptance. I just wanted you to know what happened, and that despite the changes, the connections remain. A momentary silence fell over the gathering, broken by the rumbling sound of Goalie's stomach, a surprisingly normal noise amid such extraordinary circumstances. Chi-Chi's expression softened slightly at this familiar reminder of Saiyan physiology. I suppose, say some things remain constant across any transformation. Are you hungry? Starving? Goalie admitted, realizing he hadn't eaten since before the fusion. Or rather, neither Goku nor Broly had eaten before their fateful battle. Then come inside, she offered, the invitation clearly conditional but genuine. I was preparing lunch anyway. As they moved toward the house, another tremor shook the ground, stronger than the previous occurrences, causing trees to sway and birds to take flight in alarm. Your presence continues to create dimensional instability, Zia observed, studying the ripple patterns visible only to her specialized perception and Goali's enhanced awareness. More pronounced in locations with emotional significance to your component entities. Is it dangerous? Gohan asked, steadying Goten as the tremor subsided. Potentially, Zia admitted. Each fluctuation weakens local dimensional boundaries incrementally. Continued exposure could eventually create permanent anomalies, spatial distortions, temporal inconsistencies, possibly even small breaches to adjacent dimensions. Then perhaps I shouldn't stay, Goalie suggested, Broly's instinct for self-isolation finding voice. If my presence endangers this area. No, Chi-Chi interrupted with surprising firmness. We'll find a solution that doesn't involve you disappearing. We've dealt with enough cosmic threats over the years to handle dimensional instability. Her response caught Goalie off guard. Not full acceptance, but a refusal to surrender to separation. In that moment, he glimpsed the steel beneath Kai-Ch's domestic exterior that had always impressed both Goku and even Broly during their brief encounter. The instability should diminish as integration completes, Zia offered more hopefully. I calculate approximately 68 remaining hours before full quantum harmonization. Then we have time to figure this out, Gohan concluded practically. In the meantime, food seems like an excellent idea. Saiyan metabolism doesn't change, fusion or not. They entered the modest home, the familiar surroundings triggering cascades of memories for Goku's years of domestic life blending with Bridge. Ollie's few glimpses of the dwelling during their previous confrontation. The synthesis created a strange new perspective, seeing both the comforting familiarity and the humble simplicity simultaneously. Chi-Chi moved efficiently in the kitchen, her actions suggesting that cooking provided familiar territory amid the cosmic strangeness that had invaded her life. Goten peppered Goalie with questions about his abilities, while Gohan engaged Zia in technical discussion about dimensional mechanics. Vegeta leaned against the wall, observing the scene with arms crossed and expression guarded. As platters of food began to cover the table, quantities that would stagger normal humans but represented standard fare for Saiyan appetites, Goalie found himself experiencing a moment of unexpected clarity. This scene, domestic and ordinary as it appeared, represented something profound, the convergence of Goku's earthly connections with Broly's longing for belonging, creating a new experience that honored both while transcending either. Thank you, he said simply as Chi-Chi placed the final dishes on the table. The words carried deeper meaning than mere gratitude for the meal, appreciation for not rejecting him outright. For making space to understand this new reality. She met his eyes briefly, her expression still conflicted but softening. Eat before it gets cold. Some things never change, fusion or not. As they gathered around the table, the oddness of the situation gradually gave way to the simple human ritual of sharing food. Goalie discovered that his eating habits had found middle ground. Between Goku's enthusiastic consumption and Broly's more measured approach. Even Vegeta eventually joined them, though maintaining a certain distance both physically and emotionally. We should inform the others, Gohan suggested as the meal progressed. Piccolo, Krillin, Bulma, they'll sense the energy disruption if they haven't already. Bulma's already analyzing the dimensional fluctuations, Vegeta confirmed. Her instruments detected the initial disturbance. She'll want to examine, he gestured toward Goalie, this fusion phenomenon personally. Scientific curiosity appears universal across species and dimensions, Zia observed with faint amusement. The council will require extensive documentation as well. I'm not a laboratory specimen, Goalie stated firmly, Broly's aversion to being studied asserting itself. No one's suggesting that, Gohan reassured him. But understanding what happened might help stabilize the dimensional effects, and help us all adjust to this new situation. Goalie acknowledged the logic with a nod. Of course, he struggled to articulate the complex emotions flowing through him. Everything is so new, yet simultaneously familiar. I'm still finding my balance. That's understandable, Chi-Chi said quietly. We're all trying to find our balance here. The simple acknowledgement of shared adjustment struck Goalie deeply. In that moment, he realized that while his transformation was unique, the experience of adapting to sudden, profound change was universal. Everyone at the table faced a new reality requiring recalibration of expectations and relationships. The ground trembled again, but less violently than before. Outside the window, a strange atmospheric phenomenon manifested, aurora-like curtains of light rippling across the clear blue sky. Dimensional bleed-through, Zia explained, rising to observe the display more closely. Harmless energy discharge as reality recalibrates around your existence. It's beautiful, Godin commented, pressing his face against the window glass. Beauty often emerges from cosmic disruption, Zia replied thoughtfully. Perhaps there's metaphorical significance in that observation. The meal concluded with tentative plans. Goalie would visit Capsule Corporation for Bulma's scientific assessment. Zia would establish monitoring protocols to track dimensional stability. The wider circle of Earth's defenders would be informed of this dramatic development. As they prepared to depart, Chi-Chi drew Goalie aside, speaking privately for the first time. This is impossible, she stated bluntly. Losing my husband and gaining whatever you are, in a single moment. I don't know how to process that. I understand, Goalie replied softly. I don't expect you to see me as him. I'm not him, not entirely. But you're not entirely someone else either, she observed, studying his face carefully. There's something in your expressions, your mannerisms, echoes of Goku that catch me off guard. Those echoes will always be part of me, Goalie assured her. Just as my feelings toward you and the boys remain, integrated into this new existence. Chi-Chi considered this, then asked the question that clearly troubled her most. Are you happy, like this, or would you return to being separate if you could? The question struck at the heart of his emerging identity. Goalie considered carefully before answering, examining the internal landscape of his blended consciousness. At first, I think both Goku and Broly would have preferred separation, he admitted. But with each passing hour, integration deepens. The distinction between their former selves and who I am now grows less clear. I'm becoming more fully myself, not two beings forced together, but a unique entity with my own perspective and purpose. He met her eyes directly. So yes, I think I am happy, or at least at peace with this new existence. Chi-Chi nodded slowly, processing his answer. Then we'll find our way forward, somehow. That's what this family has always done. The simple acceptance, however conditional and tentative, lifted a weight Goalie hadn't realized he'd been carrying. Thank you, he said simply. As they rejoined the others outside, preparations for departure underway, a new presence materialized beside them, Whis, appearing with his characteristic staff and inscrutable smile. My, the angel observed, studying Goalie with evident curiosity. When I sensed the collapse of my pocket dimension, I expected disaster. Instead, I find fascinating innovation. He circled Goalie slowly, examining him from all angles. Most irregular, yet somehow harmonious. Lord Beerus will be intrigued. You don't seem surprised, Vegeta noted suspiciously. Surprised? Perhaps not. Interested? Absolutely. Whis tapped his staff lightly on the ground. The universe has such creative ways of resolving contradictions. Two opposing forces, each powerful but incomplete, merged into a more perfect whole. There's almost poetic symmetry to it. Zia stiffened at Whis' appearance, her formal bearing becoming even more pronounced. Angel-class entity, I should have anticipated your involvement in this matter. Guardian-class observer, Whis acknowledged with a slight nod. The council sent one of their best, I see. How thorough. You know each other? Gohan asked, looking between them. We occupy different jurisdictions within cosmic hierarchy, Zia explained carefully. Angels oversee godly matters within universes, guardians monitor boundaries between dimensional planes. Overlapping responsibilities in this unique case. Whis added cheerfully. A permanent fusion of this nature affects both internal universal balance and interdimensional stability. Then you can help stabilize the dimensional disruptions. Goalie asked hopefully. Whis tilted his head thoughtfully. Stabilize. Perhaps not directly. Guide the process of natural equilibrium. That falls within my purview. He pointed his staff toward the aurora-like manifestations still shimmering overhead. These disturbances will diminish as you achieve full integration. The multiverse always seeks balance, given sufficient time. The multiverse also tends toward entropy and occasional catastrophic realignment, Zia countered with professional disagreement. Proactive management protocols exist for good reason. Such charming caution, Whis remarked with mild amusement. But in this case, I suspect intervention would cause more disruption than restraint. This fusion represents a natural, if unprecedented, solution to a paradoxical energy conflict. Goli listened to their exchange with growing certainty that both cosmic entities, despite their different approaches, recognized his existence as something more significant than mere accident. You knew this could happen, he stated suddenly, the realization dawning from integrated analysis of both Goku's and Broly's experiences with the angel. You created that pocket dimension for our battle, you anticipated this possibility. Whis' smile remained enigmatic. Anticipated? No. Recognized as one potential outcome among many. Perhaps. He gestured with his staff, creating a small projection of swirling energies. Certain combinations of opposed forces, when perfectly balanced, create entirely new patterns rather than mutual annihilation. Nature demonstrates this principle constantly. You could have warned us, Goli noted, finding neither anger nor resentment in the observation, merely understanding. Would either component entity have understood the warning? Or heeded it if they had? Whis countered gently. Some paths can only be discovered through direct experience, not forewarning. The angel's cryptic philosophy might have frustrated Goku or enraged Broly. But Goli found himself nodding in acceptance. The fusion had given him perspective neither original personality possessed independently, an ability to see patterns and purposes beyond immediate experience. What happens now? Chi-Chi asked practically, cutting through the cosmic philosophy to the question that most concerned her. Whis turned to her with unexpected gentleness. Life continues, dear lady, in new forms and configurations, but fundamentally unchanged in its essential nature. Your husband remains, transformed rather than lost. And Lord Beerus? Vegeta asked pointedly. How will the god of destruction view this development? With keen interest, I imagine, Whis replied cheerfully. A new Saiyan entity of unprecedented power composition. Beerus finds novel developments in martial potential endlessly fascinating. Translation. He'll want to fight you immediately, Vegeta muttered to Goli. I welcome the opportunity, Goli responded, surprising himself with the calm confidence in his voice. When integration completes, testing my capabilities against a god of destruction would provide valuable insight. Whis chuckled softly. Edie thinking like neither Goku nor Broly, but something unique. How wonderful to observe evolution in real time. A final series of goodbyes followed, laden with emotions too complex for simple expression. Chi-Chi's embrace, tentative yet genuine. Goten's excited questions about when Goli would return to show him new techniques. Gohan's thoughtful assessment that combined scientific curiosity with brotherly concern. Even Vegeta managed a gruff acknowledgement that stopped short of welcome but implied grudging acceptance. As Goli prepared to depart with Zia and Whis, heading toward Capsule Core. Preparation for the next phase of understanding his transformed existence, he paused for one final look at Mount Paozu, the place that represented home to half his integrated being, and new beginning to the other half. I'll return soon, he promised, both to the family watching from below and to himself. With that, he ascended into the sky, aurora energies swirling briefly around him before settling into a stable teal aura. Whatever challenges lay ahead, dimensional instability, cosmic protocol violations, redefining relationships, or discovering the limits of his new capabilities, he would face them neither as Goku nor as Broly, but as Goli, a being born of two legends but destined to forge his own path. As they soared through the afternoon sky, the dimensional ripples trailing behind them gradually diminished, not through conscious effort this time, but through natural harmonization. The universe, it seemed, was slowly accepting his existence. Perhaps, Goli reflected, others would follow its example. Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, Echoes of Two Hearts. 3 days after the fusion, Capsule Corporation's primary research facility hummed with the sound of advanced machinery. Holographic displays projected complex energy patterns across the laboratory while Bulma, blue hair pulled back in a hasty ponytail, studied readouts with narrowed eyes. Behind reinforced observation glass, Goku stood motionless at the center of a circular platform ringed with sensors, his expression contemplative rather than impatient. "These readings are unlike anything I've ever seen," Bulma muttered, tapping a sequence into her console. "Your cellular structure has completely reorganized at the quantum level. It's not just that Goku and Broly combined, you're something entirely new on a biological level." Whis sipped tea from a delicate cup, seemingly indifferent to the scientific breakthrough unfolding before him. The universe occasionally produces elegant solutions to energy imbalances. This fusion represents one such solution. Zia, standing rigidly beside the observation window, maintained her formal posture. The integration appears to have stabilized ahead of predicted timelines. Dimensional fluctuations have reduced by 87% in the last 24 hours. Bulma pushed away from her console with a sigh. "You can come out now, Goku. I've collected enough data to keep my research team busy for months." The circular door slid open with a pneumatic hiss. Goku stepped from the testing chamber, rolling his shoulders as though shaking off the scrutiny of the sensors. He wore a simple black training uniform Bulma had designed, neither Goku's orange GI nor Broly's fur accessorized battle attire, but something uniquely his own. "Well?" he asked, his resonant voice carrying those harmonic undertones that still surprised those who had known Goku. "Am I stabilized enough to stop worrying about accidental dimensional rifts?" "Your molecular cohesion is complete," Bulma confirmed, pushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "The energy fluctuations have settled into a regular pattern. You're still producing unusual readings, but nothing that threatens space-time integrity." "Excellent news," Whis declared cheerfully. "Lord Beerus will be delighted. He's been most eager to evaluate your capabilities since learning of your existence." Goku nodded thoughtfully. "I'm curious myself. I can feel the power inside me, but it's different, neither Goku's controlled precision nor Broly's overwhelming force, but something that draws from both approaches." "Well, you'll have the perfect opportunity to test yourself tomorrow," Bulma said, shutting down her equipment with practiced efficiency. "The World Martial Arts Tournament starts in the morning. They've added a special exhibition division for enhanced competitors, after all the chaos at previous tournaments." Interest flickered in Goku's eyes. "A tournament? That sounds perfect. Controlled environment, established rules, multiple skilled opponents," Zia observed analytically. "Optimal conditions for capability assessment while minimizing collateral dimensional effects." Bulma snorted softly at the Guardian's clinical assessment. "Also, it might be fun. Remember fun, that thing people have when they're not obsessing over cosmic stability." A smile tugged at Goku's lips, more reminiscent of Goku's easy grin than Broly's rare expressions of pleasure. "Fun sounds good. I could use some straightforward combat after days of being scanned and analyzed." "Just try not to demolish the entire arena," Bulma cautioned. Though her tone was light. The tournament committee only recently finished repairs from the last time superpowered beings decided to compete. A slight tremor ran through the building, causing equipment to rattle momentarily before subsiding. All eyes turned to Goku, who closed his eyes in concentration. The faint teal aura that had begun to manifest around him receded instantly. "Sorry," he said, opening his eyes. "Still happens sometimes when I get excited about fighting. The emotional response triggers energy fluctuations. Fascinating correlation between emotional states and dimensional resonance," Zia noted, recording the observation on her ethereal tablet. "The council will want detailed documentation of these episodes." Whis tapped his staff lightly against the floor. "I believe what our new friend needs is practical application rather than further analysis. Theory without implementation rarely yields complete understanding." Translation: "Let the man punch something instead of talking him to death," Bulma interpreted dryly. "For once, I agree with Whis." She turned to Goku. "The tournament registration closes this evening. I've already taken the liberty of entering you in the exhibition division." Goku raised an eyebrow. "You seem confident I'd want to participate." Bulma gave him a knowing look. Goku never missed a tournament if he could help it. And from what little I know of Broly, he certainly wasn't adverse to testing his combat skills. "Fair point," Goku conceded with a slight smile. "I appreciate the foresight." Bulma hesitated. then asked the question that clearly had been on her mind throughout the examination. How does it feel, being neither of them, but both at the same time? Goalie considered the question carefully. Imagine having two lifetimes of memories and experiences, but viewing them through a new perspective that sees the connections neither original person could recognize. I remember Goku's childhood on Earth and Broly's isolation on Vampa with equal clarity, but I experience those memories as chapters in a larger story rather than separate lives. And emotionally, Bulma pressed her scientify. See curiosity giving way to genuine concern for someone who, in part, had been her oldest friend. That's more complex, Goalie admitted. Some feelings transferred completely: Goku's love for his family, Broly's desire for connection after years of isolation. Others have transformed into something new. Goku's competitive drive and Broly's raw determination have merged into a different kind of focused ambition. Subjective experiential integration appears remarkably complete, Zia observed. Most unprecedented. Whis merely smiled enigmatically, as though the development matched some private expectation. Well, whatever you are now, Bulma said decisively, you're welcome at Capsule Corp anytime. Vegeta may be taking longer to adjust, but Trunks is dying to spar with you. I appreciate that, Goalie responded sincerely. Belonging remains important to me, perhaps even more now than before. A comfortable silence settled briefly before Whis cleared his throat delicately. If scientific evaluation is complete, I believe Lord Beerus expected a report on today's findings. The angel's tone remained casual, but carried subtle authority. And perhaps our new friend would benefit from some preparation before tomorrow's tournament. Bulma rolled her eyes. Tell the big purple cat he can wait 5 minutes for his update. Some of us have actual work to complete. Despite her words, she began organizing her notes with increased speed. Goalie turned to Zia. Will you be attending the tournament tomorrow? The Guardian considered the question with formal deliberation. Ongoing observation remains my primary directive. A public combat exhibition provides excellent opportunity to document your capabilities under controlled conditions. Additionally, she hesitated almost imperceptibly. I find myself curious about Earth competitive traditions. Then I'll see you there, Goalie said with a nod before turning to Whis. Please tell Lord Beerus I look forward to demonstrating my abilities for him soon, after I've had chance to understand them better myself. The angel inclined his head slightly. A wise approach. Patience often yields greater results than haste, particularly when exploring new potential. With farewells exchanged, Goalie departed through the Capsule Corporation grounds, acknowledging the curious stares of employees with polite nods. Once beyond the compound's boundaries, he took to the sky, accelerating with effortless speed until the city blurred beneath him. Flying had become a unique pleasure since the fusion, combining Goku's joy in the freed of flight with Broly's appreciation for the raw power of movement through space. He soared higher, pushing beyond the cloud layer into the thin upper atmosphere where the sky darkened toward violet. Black and stars became visible even in daylight. Up here, alone with the vastness of the stratosphere, Goalie allowed himself full expression of his power for the first time since stabilization. The teal aura erupted around him. Neither the blue of Super Saiyan God nor the green of Broly's legendary form, but something uniquely his own, a perfect synthesis of opposing energies. The sensation was exhilarating. Power coursed through his body, not fighting for control as it had during those first disorienting days, but flowing naturally through pathways that felt as though they had always existed. He accelerated further, breaking the sound barrier with an explosive crack that dissipated in the thin air. His enhanced senses detected energy signatures across remarkable distances, Piccolo meditating at the lookout, Gohan teaching at his university, Vegeta training in his gravity chamber. Each distinct, familiar, yet perceived with new clarity that allowed him to distinguish subtle emotional states within the energy patterns. Goalie banked sharply, adjusting his course toward more remote terrain. If he intended to test his capabilities before tomorrow's tournament, he needed isolation. The memories of both Goku and Broly agreed on this point. New techniques required space and privacy to perfect. A vast desert stretched below, its red-orange landscape broken only by dramatic rock formations and the occasional dry riverbed. Goalie descended rapidly, landing with precision atop a flat-topped mesa. Heat radiated from the sun-baked stone, creating rippling distortions in the air that reminded him of dimensional fluctuations. He began with basics, testing the simple mechanics of his transformed body through kata that Goku had learned from Master Roshi decades ago. The movements came naturally, yet with subtle differences: greater reach due to longer limbs, shifted balance from altered proportions, increased power even in restrained movements. Gradually, he increased complexity, integrating techniques from Goku's expansive martial arts knowledge with the raw power approaches Broly had developed through instinct rather than formal training. The combination created something fascinating, a fighting style that maintained technical precision while incorporating overwhelming force. Hours passed as Goku explored his capabilities, pushing boundaries and discovering surprising integrations. Goku's Kamehameha merged with Broly's Eraser Cannon produced a devastating energy projection he instinctively named Harmonic Destroyer, the beam maintaining Kamehameha's focused precision carrying Eraser Cannon's volatile energy pattern. Instant transmission, one of Goku's signature techniques, had evolved as well. Where Goku required focus on a specific energy signature, Goku Disco Varied could perceive and target locations through dimensional frequencies rather than just key signatures, a skill he suspected came from Broly's unconscious sensitivity to energy patterns. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the desert landscape, Goku paused his training to consider transformation. Both Goku and Broly had accessed various Super Saiyan forms, but through different mechanisms. Goku through disciplined ki control, Broly through emotional catalysts. Goku closed his eyes, centering himself. The power was there, vast reservoirs of energy waiting to be tapped. But the pathways felt different, neither the familiar routes Goku had developed over years of training nor the explosive channels Broly had forged through rage. Instead of forcing either approach, Goku allowed his integrated consciousness to guide him, seeking the natural transformation path for his unique physiology. Energy began to flow upward from his core, neither controlled nor chaotic but somewhat balanced between structured turbulence, ordered wildness. His hair lifted slightly as power built within him. When he opened his eyes, the world appeared sharper, colors more vivid. His aura intensified, the teal energy swirling around him in complex patterns. This wasn't Super Saiyan as either Goku or Broly had experienced it, but something new, what he instinctively recognized as Harmonic Saiyan. The first transformation unique to his fused existence. The power felt incredible, greater than Super Saiyan Blue had been for Goku, more controlled than legendary Super Saiyan had been for Broly. Yet Goku sensed this was merely the beginning, the first step on a transformative path unique to his existence. As he released the transformation, allowing his energy to settle back to base level, Goku became aware of a presence approaching from the east, moving deliberately, not trying to conceal its approach. He turned, curious rather than concerned, to observe a small aircraft making its way toward his location. The craft, sleek, bearing unmarked military design, circled once before landing at a respectful distance. Its engines powered down with a diminishing whine, leaving desert silence broken only by cooling metal and shifting sand. The canopy slid back to reveal a woman in her late 20s with short-cropped dark hair and the confident posture of a fighter. She wore simple gray training clothes bearing no insignia, but her movement as she vaulted from the cockpit spoke of extensive martial arts training. Goku watched with interest as she approached, noting the controlled way she measured his potential threat level without appearing openly hostile. Her key signature was impressive for a human, not superhuman like Krillin or Tien, but suggesting rigorous development of natural potential. She stopped 10 paces away, studying him with dark, evaluating eyes. "So you're the new arrival everyone's been whispering about," she stated without introduction. "The one who's neither Goku nor Broly, but somehow both." Quote, "News travels fast," Goku observed, intrigued by her direct approach. "And you are Kyla." She crossed her arms, continuing her assessment. "Former special operations, current independent contractor, lifetime martial artist." Her gaze sharpened. "I felt your energy output from 200 miles away. Thought I should investigate before tomorrow's tournament." Understanding dawned. "You're competing." A hint of a smile touched her lips. "Exhibition division. Where they put all of us. Enhanced. Fighters too dangerous for the regular brackets. Shi Ji gestured toward the cracked mesa surface where Goali's power testing had left visible evidence. Based on this, they might need to create a new category just for you. You're remarkably calm about approaching someone with my power level alone, Goalie noted, genuinely curious. Kyla shrugged, the gesture deliberately casual. I've faced worse odds. Besides, part of you is Son Goku, and whatever else people say about him. He never harmed the innocent. Her expression hardened slightly. The other part is more concerning, but I'm willing to reserve judgment. Goalie found himself appreciating her straightforwardness. Wise approach. I'm still discovering exactly who I am now. Well, you've got about 18 hours before you'll need to demonstrate it in the ring. Kyla's stance shifted subtly, not threatening, but prepared. Care for a warm-up? I could use the practice, and you could probably benefit from testing your control against someone who won't shatter if you sneeze. The proposal was unexpected but appealing. Goalie had been curious how his new abilities would translate against a skilled opponent, and this woman clearly possessed technical expertise even if her power level couldn't match his. I'd welcome the opportunity, he agreed, though I'll need to restrain my output considerably. Don't hold back too much, Kyla advised, sliding into a ready stance that Goalie recognized as a rare earth martial art, Silat. With modifications for energy projection. I'm tougher than I look. Without further preamble, she attacked, a lightning-fast combination of strikes that would have overwhelmed most human opponents. Goalie defended instinctively, blocking with precise movements while carefully moderating his strength. The challenge wasn't in matching her speed or power, but in responding appropriately without causing injury. Kyla fought with impressive technical precision, her style combining traditional martial arts with pragmatic adaptations clearly developed through actual combat experience. She utilized the environment expertly, using the uneven terrain to create unexpected angles of attack. Your technique is excellent, Goalie observed as they exchanged a particularly complex sequence of strikes and counters. Where did you train? Everywhere, Kyla replied between controlled breaths. Started with my grandfather, last master of the White Crane School. Then special forces. Then private study with every teacher who'd accept me. She narrowly evaded a restrained strike, including a few months with an old turtle hermit who spent most of his time watching exercise videos. Goalie couldn't help but smile at the reference to Master Roshi. He's better than he pretends to be. So I discovered, Kyla acknowledged, launching a spinning kick that Goalie caught carefully. Eventually, the sparring continued as the sun disappeared below the horizon, stars emerging in the desert sky with striking clarity. Kyla fought with increasing intensity, seemingly testing the limits of her own endurance rather than harboring any illusion of victory. Goalie found himself respecting her determination and skill, particularly her adaptability as she quickly analyzed his movement patterns and adjusted her approach accordingly. Finally, breathing hard but still maintaining perfect form, Kyla stepped back and bowed formally. Enough. I've seen what I needed to. Goalie returned the bow with equal respect. And what conclusion have you reached? That you're holding back so much it's almost insulting, she replied bluntly, though without rancor. But also that you have impressive control for someone managing that much power. Your technique is flawless, but somehow impersonal, like you're running through movements without making them your own. The assessment was remarkably perceptive. I'm still integrating two different fighting philosophies, Goalie explained. Finding the balance between them. Kyla nodded as though this confirmed some private theory. Tomorrow should help with that. Nothing forces adaptation like actual competition. She studied him thoughtfully. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? Something more unstable, dangerous. Her expression remained evaluative rather than judgmental. The reports about Brawley described a barely controlled berserker. Yet you seem completely centered. Integration has balanced extremes from both sides, Goalie explained, finding it easier to articulate his internal state to this straightforward stranger than to those who had known his component selves. Goku's optimism tempers Brawley's trauma. Brawley's intensity focuses Goku's sometimes scattered attention. Fascinating. For the first time, genuine curiosity replaced professional assessment in Kyla's expression. And personally, do you consider yourself the same people? Or someone new? Someone new, Goalie answered without hesitation. With deep respect for the lives that created me, but with my own path forward. Something in his response seemed to satisfy her. She nodded once, decisively. I look forward to seeing what that path looks like tomorrow. Even if it probably means my swift elimination from the tournament. She turned toward her aircraft. Then paused. One last question. Of course. Are you planning to hold back tomorrow, or show what you're really capable of? Goalie considered the question seriously. I'll respect the tournament boundaries and my opponent's safety. Beyond that, he smiled slightly. I think it's time the world sees what I can do. Good, Kyla said with unexpected vehemence. Too many enhanced fighters hide their potential out of fear or misplaced humility. If you have power, own it. She offered a rare smile. Just try not to vaporize me in the first round if we're matched up. I make no promises. Goalie replied with good humor, but I'll aim for a technical victory rather than molecular disintegration. Appreciated. With a casual wave, Kyla returned to her aircraft. Moments later, the engines flared to life, and the craft rose into the night sky before banking eastward toward distant city lights. Goalie watched until it disappeared from view, intrigued by the encounter. Kyla was unlike any human fighter he'd met, or rather, unlike any Goku or Broly had encountered. Her combination of technical skill, tactical intelligence, and straightforward demeanor made her a fascinating study. Even if her power level posed no actual threat, the knight had fully claimed the desert now, temperature dropping rapidly as he'd escaped into the clear sky. Stars blazed overhead with remarkable clarity, their light undiminished by city glow. Goalie extended his senses upward, past the atmosphere into the vastness beyond, feeling the subtle energies of distant worlds. Goku and Broly had traveled the cosmos, though in vastly different ways. Goku is an explorer and defender, Broly is an exile and weapon. Their combined experience gave Goalie a unique perspective on his place in the universal hierarchy. Significant, but not dominant. Powerful, but within a cosmos of innumerable powers. This perspective felt right, a balanced view neither inflated by pride nor diminished by false modesty. He was what he was, a new being of remarkable capability with the responsibility to use that capability wisely. Turning his attention earthward again, Goalie considered where to spend the night before tomorrow's tournament. The Sun family home remained an option, though emotional complexities made that environment less than restful. Capsule Corporation had offered accommodation, but Vegeta's continuing wariness created its own tension. Instead, Goalie made his decision based on what felt most natural to his integrated self. He would remain here in the wilderness, beneath the stars, connected to the primal energies of the planet. Goku had often camped during his travels, Broly had known little else during his years on Vampa. For Goalie, the choice represented perfect harmony between his component experiences. Finding a natural hollow in the rock formation, he settled into a meditative posture. Sleep came easily, his consciousness descending into rest that was neither Goku's carefree slumber nor Broly's vigilant dozing, but a balanced state of relaxed awareness. Dreams flowed through his mind, not memories from either previous life, but new scenarios unique to his integrated consciousness. Complex patterns of energy, distant worlds waiting to be discovered, potential transformations beyond what either Goku or Broly had achieved individually. And faces, some familiar from his component memories, others entirely new, including, curiously, several female visages he couldn't identify but felt strangely significant. The dream logic suggested these were connections yet to be made, potential relationships unique to his new existence. Goalie woke before dawn, mind clear and body refreshed in a way that surpassed either component's previous experience. The desert air carried morning crispness, heavy with the scent of sage and mineral-laden soil. He rose in one fluid motion, stretching muscles that responded with perfect coordination. After a brief but intense morning training session, focusing particularly on power modulation techniques essential for tournament conditions, Goalie launched himself skyward. The rising sun painted the landscape in gold and crimson as he accelerated eastward toward Papaya Island, traditional home of the World Martial Arts Tournament. The island appeared on the horizon within minutes, its distinctive stadium visible even from great distance. As Goalie approached, he noted significant changes since Goku's last participation. expanded facilities, modernized architecture, and substantially enhanced security measures clearly assigned with superhuman contestants in mind. He descended toward the registration area, where early morning activity suggested final preparations underway. Officials in tournament uniforms rushed ABO with clipboards and communication devices while work crews made adjustments to equipment. A separate section had been cordoned off with distinctive signage: Exhibition Division, Enhanced Competitors Only. Goalie landed lightly near this area, immediately drawing attention from nearby officials and early arriving spectators. Whispered conversations and pointing fingers followed him as he approached the registration desk, where a harried-looking woman was organizing participant credentials. "Excuse me," he said politely. "I believe I'm pre-registered for the exhibition division. Name: Goalie." The woman glanced up, did a double take, then quickly composed herself. "Yes, of course. We have you listed, courtesy of Capsule Corporation's entry." She shuffled through a stack of badges before producing one with his name. "Here's your participant credential. Exhibition Division rules briefing begins in 30 minutes in Conference Room C. All enhanced competitors are required to attend." "Thank you," Goalie replied, accepting the badge with a nod. "Just." The woman hesitated. "The committee has requested that all participants make every effort to preserve the arena infrastructure this year. The repair budget has already been exceeded from previous tournaments." Goalie smiled reassuringly. "I'll do my best." As he turned from the desk, he found himself face to face with Krillin, the diminutive fighter, visibly startled by the encounter despite surely having sensed his approach. Goalie," Krillin corrected himself, recovering quickly. "I thought I recognized that energy signature. Just didn't expect to see you here at the tournament." "Some things remain consistent across transformations," Goalie replied with good humor. "The appeal of testing skills in structured competition appears to be one of them." Krillin studied him with open curiosity. "It's still so strange. You look and sound different, but there's something in your expression that's unmistakably Goku." He shook his head in wonder. "How are you adjusting to everything?" "Better each day," Goalie answered honestly. "The integration is complete now. I'm no longer experiencing internal conflict between different aspects of myself." "That's good to hear," Krillin said sincerely. "I was worried when Bulma explained what happened. It sounded like you might be struggling with the whole two people in one body situation." "Not two people in one body," Goalie corrected gently. "One new person incorporating elements of two previous existences. The distinction is important." Krillin nodded thoughtfully. "I think I understand. Like how Piccolo isn't just Piccolo and Kami sharing space, but something different after they reintegrated." "Similar." "Yes," Goalie agreed, impressed by Krillin's perceptiveness. "Are you competing today?" "Me? No way." Krillin laughed, gesturing to his casual civilian clothes. "I'm here supporting 18. She's in the exhibition division. Needed something to alleviate the boredom," she said. "I look forward to seeing her compete," Goalie said with genuine interest. Her technical precision always impressed Goku. "Yeah, well, just try not to demolish my wife if you end up matched against her." Krillin replied good-naturedly. "She's competitive enough that she might actually try going all out against you, which would probably mean extensive repairs to our house afterward when she's recovering." Before Goalie could respond, a new voice joined the conversation: cool, formal, and distinctly feminine. "Competitor evaluation confirms my earlier assessment. This tournament will provide excellent observational opportunities." They turned to find Zia approaching, her otherworldly appearance drawing stares from passers-by. She had modified her attire slightly, her flowing Ian garments now incorporating elements that resembled tournament official clothing, an apparent attempt to blend in that achieved precisely the opposite effect. "Zia," Goalie greeted her with a nod. "I didn't expect to see you this early. Comprehensive observation requires presence throughout all procedural components," she replied matter-of-factly. "The Council has authorized my full participation as an official observer. Local authorities have been appropriately influenced to accept my credentials." Krillin blinked, clearly trying to process her formal speech patterns. Nice to meet you. I'm Krillin." "Yes. Former monk, current law enforcement professional, spouse to modified human designation, Android 18, previously participant in multiple universal crisis events." Zia recited this information with clinical precision. Your record is quite extensive in the cosmic registry. I have a record? Krillin asked, somewhere between flattered and concerned. All significant contributors to dimensional stability events are documented, Zia confirmed. Your particular file notes, surprising durability despite repeated mortal injuries. Krillin rubbed the back of his head awkwardly. Not sure if that's a compliment or just depressing. The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of more familiar faces. Tien, Master Roshi, and Yamcha approaching from the main entrance. Engaged in animated discussion that halted when they noticed Goku. So it's true, Tien observed, his third eye narrowing slightly as he studied Goku's energy signature. A permanent fusion. Fascinating. Master Roshi adjusted his sunglasses, his expression unreadable. Interesting combination of energies you've got there, young man. Balanced, but with tremendous potential for growth. Thanks, Master Roshi, Goku replied, inclining his head respectfully toward the ancient martial artist. Your assessment means a great deal, considering your experience. Yamcha hung back slightly, clearly unsure how to approach this transformed version of his old friend. Hey, Goku, right, that's what they're calling you. It's what I'm calling myself, Goku corrected gently. And yes, Yamcha, it's good to see you. An awkward silence threatened to descend before Yamcha broke it with characteristic directness. Look, are you still, I mean, Goku was my oldest friend, and Broly was, well, terrifying when we briefly met. So you're something of both, something entirely new, Goku supplied. I have Goku's memories of your friendship, from that first meeting in the desert through everything that followed. I value those connections, even if I experience them from a different perspective now. Yamcha seemed to relax slightly. That's good enough for me. If you've got Goku in there somewhere, you're all right in my book. He grinned suddenly. Plus, this means I technically have one friend who might actually be stronger than Vegeta, which is pretty satisfying. The group shared a laugh at this, even Zia's lips twitching slightly in what might have been amusement, breaking the remaining tension. Their conversation continued as more competitors and spectators arrived, the tournament grounds becoming increasingly crowded. Goku found himself simultaneously at ease with these people who had known half his former self while aware of the subtle differences in how they related to him now. More caution, more observation, less presumed familiarity. Attention Exhibition Division competitors, announced a voice over the public address system. Please report to Conference Room C for rules briefing. All other divisions, please check the main board for your preliminary round assignments. That's my cue, Goku said, excusing himself from the gathering. Looking forward to seeing you all during the competition. As he made his way toward the conference building, Goku spotted a familiar figure already heading in the same direction, Kyla, dressed in simple black competition gear. Her expression focused and professional. She acknowledged him with a brief nod as he fell into step beside her. Sleep well in the desert? She asked without preamble. Perfectly, he replied. And you? Hotel beds are overrated. She rolled her shoulders, loosening muscles. Too soft. Slept on the floor instead. Goku found himself appreciating her straightforward nature. Any thoughts on the competition? Exhibition divisions an interesting mix this year. Kyla's assessment was coolly professional. Couple of aliens trying to pass as human. Some cybernetically enhanced fighters. At least 3 key manipulators with formal training. Then there's Android 18, who's clearly slumming it among the merely superhuman. She glanced sideways at him. And you, of course. The fusion of 2 beings who could individually destroy planets. When you put it that way, perhaps I should withdraw, Goku suggested, only half joking. Hardly seems sporting. Kyla surprised him with a sharp laugh. Don't you dare. Half the reason I entered was to measure myself against impossible odds. Her expression grew serious. Power differences don't dictate outcomes as often as people think. Technique, strategy, and timing matter, especially in a rule-bound competition. You sound like you have experience with tournaments. 17 championship titles across various martial arts disciplines. She confirmed without false modesty. Before I started focusing on opponents outside conventional competition brackets. They reached Conference Room C, already filling with an eclectic collection of competitors. Goku immediately recognized several key signatures of varying strengths, plus the distinctive energy pattern of Android 18 standing near the back wall, her expression characteristically impassive. The rules briefing proceeded with bureaucratic efficiency, explanations of boundaries, scoring, elimination conditions, and importantly, power limitations. The exhibit, Ion Division, permitted techniques beyond human capability but restricted environmental damage and lethality. Matches would take place in a specially reinforced arena with energy-dampening technology developed by Capsule Corporation. Throughout the presentation, Goku found himself aware of being observed from multiple directions. Android 18's clinical assessment, Kyla's professional evaluation, various competitors' wary attention, but most interestingly, an intense scrutiny from a woman he hadn't noticed initially, tall, with a subtle lavender tint to her skin that suggested non-Earth origin, tutoring him with focused interest that went beyond mere competitive analysis. As the briefing concluded and competitors began filing out to prepare for the opening ceremonies, this woman approached D. erectly, her movement displaying the fluid grace of extensive combat training. "You are the fusion anomaly," she stated without introduction, her accent exotic but her language perfect. "The one called Goku." "I am," he acknowledged, intrigued by her direct approach. "And you are Valera." She studied him with penetrating intensity. "Last daughter of House Kales from the Saiyan colony of Helios." Goku's interest sharpened immediately. Saiyan colony. But planet Vegeta was destroyed. The survivors were few and scattered, yes. Valera's posture remained formally correct, almost regal. House Kales departed the homeworld generations before its destruction, establishing a colony beyond Frieza's knowledge. "We evolved differently from the main planetary population." Now that she'd identified herself, Goku could indeed sense the Saiyan energy signature underlying her ki, though it carried unique harmonics unlike Vegeta's or his own component Saiyan heritage. Her appearance supported this claim, tall and athletic with the characteristic black hair, though worn in an intricate style suggesting cultural differences from the warrior society Vegeta had described. "Different how?" Goku asked, genuinely curious about this unexpected connection to Saiyan heritage. "We chose science and spiritual development over conquest," Valera explained, her voice carrying subtle pride. "While maintaining our martial traditions. Of course, power without wisdom merely perpetuates the cycle of destruction that claimed our homeworld." Her gaze intensified as she studied him. "You carry Yan heritage from both component entities, yet manifest it in ways our records never predicted. I've come to observe this phenomenon directly." "You've been studying me?" Goku asked, surprised. "CE news of your creation reached our monitoring stations 3 days ago," Valera confirmed without apology. "A fusion of two S-class Saiyan warriors, stabilized without technological intervention. An event deserves proper documentation." Before Goku could respond, Kyla rejoined them, her expression suggesting limited patience for the conversation. "Preliminary brackets are posted," she informed them briskly. "Opening ceremonies in 20 minutes. She eyed Valera with professional assessment rather than hostility. "Making new friends already. Apparently I'm a subject of scientific interest." Goku replied with mild amusement. "You're considerably more than that," Valera stated with unexpected intensity. "You represent evolutionary potential our researchers have theorized but never observed. The balanced integration of opposing Saiyan topologies into harmonic synthesis." Kyla raised an eyebrow. "She always talk like a research paper." A flicker of annoyance crossed Valera's composed features. "Precision in language reflects precision in thought, human. And condescension reflects insecurity, Saiyan," Kyla countered without heat. Goku found himself suppressing a smile at the exchange. "Perhaps we should check those preliminary brackets before we're disqualified for missing the opening ceremony." The three made their way to the posted tournament brackets, where competitors clustered to learn their initial matchups. The exhibition division had 16 entrants divided into 4 blocks of 4, with block winners advancing to semifinals. "Interesting," Kyla observed, studying the assignments. "They've placed the highest energy signatures in separate blocks. Strategic seeding to maximize spectacle in later rounds." Goku located his name in Block A, with his first match scheduled against a fighter identified only as Mech Lord. Android 18 appeared in Block C, while Valera and Kyla had both been placed in Block D, guaranteeing they would face each other in The second round if both won their initial matches. Your first opponent utilizes biomechanical enhancements, Valera observed, scanning the competitor data displayed beside the brackets. Primitive technology, but potentially interesting tactical applications. And you've drawn Crusher Hiramu, Kyla noted, reviewing Valera's bracket. Former heavyweight champion, augmented with experimental gravitational manipulation implants. Problematic for most opponents, though likely inconsequential for someone with Saiyan resistance to gravitational stress. The analytical exchange continued as they reviewed the remaining brackets. Both women displaying impressive tactical knowledge despite their different backgrounds and approaches. Goalie found himself appreciating their contrasting perspective. Kyla's practical combat experience complementing Valera's more theoretical understanding of energy dynamics. Their discussion was interrupted by another announcement calling all competitors to assemble for the opening ceremony. Together with the other exhibition fighters, they made their way to the staging area behind the main arena, where the distinctive sounds of a capacity crowd could be heard through the structured stone. The atmosphere among the competitors reflected the exhibition division's unusual nature, less the camaraderie of traditional martial artists and more the wary assess-me of beings who recognized each other as potential threats. Android 18 stood slightly apart, communicating quietly with Krillin who had joined her in the preparation area. Several fighters with Obvio, as technological enhancements performed final equipment checks, while others engaged in last-minute stretching routines or meditation. Ladies and gentlemen, the announcer's amplified voice echoed through the stadium, prompting attentive silence from the competitors. Welcome to the 42nd World Martial Arts Tournament. Before we begin our regular competition, please welcome our special exhibition division competitors, the most extraordinary fighters from around the world and beyond. A staff member gestured urgently, and the exhibition fighters filed through the entrance tunnel into the main arena. Sunlight blazed down from the clear sky, temporarily blinding after the dimness of the preparation area. The roar of the crowd washed over them like a physical wave as they emerged into view. The arena had indeed been substantially modified since Goku's last participation. The traditional tile fighting platform remained, but now surrounded by transparent energy barriers clearly ignited to contain excessive power discharges. Sensor arrays positioned at strategic intervals suggested both safety monitoring and data collection for scientific analysis. As the competitors lined up for introduction, Goalie became aware of a distinctive energy signature observing from high above, Whis, accompanied by what could only be Lord Beerus, watching from a private observation platform that hadn't been part of the original architecture. The god of destruction appeared to be consuming something from a large container while studying the proceedings with characteristic blend of boredom and vague interest. The announcer began introducing competitors individually, each receiving varying levels of audience response based on reputation or appearance. When Goalie's name was called, a curious hush fell over the stadium, followed by an eruption of excited conversation. Clearly, news of his unique origins had spread beyond the circle of those directly involved. This competitor represents an unprecedented fusion of two legendary warriors, the announcer proclaimed with professional enthusiasm. Making his tournament debut today, Goalie. The crowd response intensified as spectators pointed and whispered. Many had likely witnessed Goku's previous tournament appearances, and rumors of Broly's devastating power had circulated widely after his arrival on Earth. The combination clearly captured public imagination. Goalie acknowledged the introduction with a simple bow, maintaining calm dignity despite the spectacle. As he straightened, he caught sight of familiar faces in the VIP section, Chi-Chi seated with Gohan and Goten, watching with expressions ranging from concern to excitement. Bulma nearby with Trunks, the boy practically bouncing with anticipation. Even Piccolo had made an appearance, standing stoically at the back of the section. The ceremony concluded with traditional statements about honor and sportsmanship that seemed somewhat incongruous given the power levels assembled. As competitors dispersed to prepare for their respective matches, Goalie found himself approached by the tournament director, a nervous-looking man clutching a tablet computer. "Excuse me, sir," the director began tentatively. "Given your unique status, the committee wanted to confirm certain parameters before your first match." "Parameters?" Goalie inquired politely. "Yes, well," the man consulted his tablet anxiously. "Our sensors indicate your power level exceeds our measurement capabilities even at rest." For safety purposes, we need to establish appropriate limitations for competitive matches. Goalie considered this reasonable concern. I understand. What do you propose? Relief flickered across the director's face at this cooperative response. We've installed power dampening fields that can be calibrated to individual participants. For your matches, we'd like to set the suppression ratio at maximum capacity, effectively limiting your output to approximately 5% of potential. 5% should be more than sufficient for demonstration purposes, Goalie agreed readily. Though I should note that precise control rather than raw output would be my approach regardless. Excellent. The director's tension visibly decreased. Your first match begins in 30 minutes. The technical team will calibrate the dampening field accordingly. He hesitated, then added with awkward formality. The committee also wishes to express gratitude for your understanding. Previous tournaments involving enhanced participants have resulted in substantial infrastructure damage. Goalie smiled reassuringly. I have no interest in destruction for its own sake. This is an opportunity to test technique and control, not raw power. As the director hurried away to continue preparations, Kyla approached from where she'd evidently been observing the exchange. 5%, she remarked, arms crossed. Still probably enough to launch most opponents into orbit. The limitation is reasonable, Goalie replied, though I suspect even 5% exceeds the necessary threshold for competitive purposes. Kyla studied him with that direct, evaluative gaze that seemed characteristic of her approach to everything. Most enhanced fighters would protest such restrictions as hobbling their true potential, or some similar ego-driven complaint. Your acceptance is unexpected. True potential isn't measured by maximum output, Goalie observed. Precision, control, and appropriate application matter more than raw force. Something in his response seemed to satisfy her. She nodded once, decisively. Exactly. That's what separates martial artists from mere power users. A slight smile touched her lips. Maybe there's hope for you after all, Fusion Man. Before he could respond, the announcement system called the first exhibition match competitors to the arena. As the designated opener for Block A, Goalie was scheduled to face Mech Lord immediately. Good luck, Kyla offered, her tone suggesting she knew he wouldn't need it. Try not to break the arena in the first match. Some of us still need to use it. Goalie made his way to the competitor entrance, WH. A tournament official waited to escort him to the platform. As they walked through the tunnel, the official provided last-minute reminders about boundaries and regulations, which Goalie acknowledged with patient attention despite having already memorized the rules. Emerging onto the fighting platform, Goalie found his opponent already waiting, a muscular man encased in partial cybernetic armor that hummed with power. Tubes and cables connected various components of the suit, glowing with energy that suggested significant enhancement to natural human capabilities. Competitors, take your positions. The announcer called as the crowd's excited murmuring intensified. First match of Exhibition Block A, Goalie vs Mech Lord. Goalie moved to his position with calm precision, centering himself both physically and mentally. Across the platform, Mech Lord engaged in a more theatrical display, his armor components shifting and recalibrating with mechanical whirs and pneumatic hisses. Begin. Mech Lord attacked immediately, cybernetic enhancements propelling him forward with impressive speed for technology-based augmentation. His opening combination, a series of pneumatically powered STR-Ikes, demonstrated both the advantages and limitations of his approach. The mechanical assistance provided substantial force but sacrificed the adaptability of natural movement. Goalie evaded with minimal motion, studying his opponent's patterns without counter-attacking. The mechanical systems followed predictable trajectories despite their power, allowing him to analyze and anticipate subsequent attacks with increasing precision. Fight back, fusion freak. Mech Lord taunted, frustration evident in his voice. Or are you afraid your patchwork powers won't hold together under pressure? Rather than responding verbally, Goalie simply adjusted his position slightly, a subtle shift that placed him perfectly to intercept the next attack sequence. When Mech Lord launched forward again, Goalie executed a precisely calculated counter that redirected the mechanical force back through the armor systems. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Feedback cascaded through the interconnected components, causing power fluctuations visible as rippling energy discharges across the cybernetic surface. Mech Lord staggered, systems temporarily disrupted by the elegant application of his own momentum against him. Impressive defensive technique, the announcer commented as the crowd responded enthusiastically. Goalie redirects his opponent's power without striking a direct blow. Recovering quickly, Lord initiated what appeared to be a secondary combat protocol, armor components reconfiguring into a more offensive configuration with extended strike capabilities. Energy gathered in projected field emitters mounted on his gauntlets. "Let's see you dodge energy fields, Fusion Man," he challenged, activating the emitters to project crackling force fields that expanded outward in concentric patterns designed to limit evasion options. Goalie observed the technique with academic interest, a clever adaptation of technology to create area denial effects similar to certain key techniques, but requiring external power sources rather than internal energy manipulation. Rather than attempting to evade, he simply raised one hand and gestured precisely. The energy fields distorted, then collapsed inward, their patterns disrupted by the subtle key manipulation Goalie projected. Without visible effort, he had effectively neutralized the technique by introducing harmonic interference into the field generation. Lord stared in disbelief as his primary offensive system failed. "That's impossible. These fields are quantum stabilized. Quantum patterns remain susceptible to harmonic disruption," Goalie explained calmly. "Your technology is impressive, but fundamentally limited by its dependence on external power sources and predetermined response algorithms." The analysis, delivered without condescension or hostility, seemed to infuriate Lord more than any taunt could have. With an inarticulate shout, he activated what appeared to be emergency override protocols, his armor's power regulators disengaging as all systems channeled maximum output into a desperate charge. Recognizing that his opponent now risked self-injury through system overload, Goalie decided to end the match cleanly. As Lord approached, energy crackling dangerously around overclocked components, Goalie simply extended two fingers and touched a precise point on the central control unit visible at the armor's core. A controlled pulse of ki, carefully measured to affect circuitry without damaging the human within, transmitted through the contact point. Instantly, all systems powered down, leaving Lord frozen in mid-stride as his armor locked into safety mode. "I can't move," he exclaimed, struggling futilely against suddenly inert mechanical components. "A technical system shutdown," Goalie explained. "Your armor will reset in approximately 30 seconds, but the match will be concluded by then." The referee, after verifying that Lord indeed could not continue, declared Goalie the winner. The crowd erupted in applause, clearly impressed by the controlled and decisive victory achieved without spectacular destruction or excessive force. As Goalie left the platform, he became aware of being observed from multiple directions with varying degrees of interest. Kyla and Valera both studying his performance with professional assessment. Android 18 watching with clinical detachment. Lord Beerus, surprisingly, now leaning forward in his observation booth with mild interest replacing his usual boredom. And most significantly, a new presence he hadn't noticed earlier, a woman with streaky features and an aura of technological sophistication, observing from a restricted area near the scientific monitoring equipment. Her interest seemed less in the competitive aspects of his victory and more in the precise key manipulation techniques he had demonstrated against electronic systems. "Efficient performance," commented Zia, materializing beside him with her characteristic sudden appearance. "Minimal power expenditure, optimal technique application, zero collateral effects. I was holding back significantly," Goalie acknowledged. "The power dampening wasn't even necessary. Nevertheless, your approach revealed considerable information." Zia's formal tone couldn't quite conceal her interest. "You demonstrated precision control that neither component entity possessed individually. The integration has enhanced your capabilities in unexpected ways." "I'm still discovering those enhancements myself," Goalie admitted. "Each situation reveals new aspects of what this fusion has created." Their conversation was interrupted by the announcement of the next exhibition match, Valera facing her first opponent in Block D. Goalie moved to the observation area, curious to see the mysterious Saiyan colonist in action. The match proved fascinating, though brief. Valera's opponent, the gravity manipulator Kyla had mentioned, attempted to increase local gravitational force to immobilize her. The strategy might have worked against many enhanced fighters, but against Saiyan physiology adapted to extreme gravitational conditions, it proved ineffective. Valera's fighting style revealed the different evolution she had referenced. Where traditional Saiyan combat emphasized overwhelming force and energy projection, her technique displayed sophisticated energy manipulation more reminiscent of mystical traditions. She defeated her opponent not through superior strength but by redirecting his own gravitational fields with elegant precision that suggested extensive formal training. Impressive control, Goku observed as she rejoined the competitor area after her victory. Your colony developed very different applications of Saiyan potential. Necessity drove innovation, Valera replied, her formal manner relaxing slightly. Isolated from our homeworld, with limited resources and the need to remain undetected by Frieza's forces, we explored aspects of our heritage beyond mere combat power. Yet you maintain formidable fighting capability, Goku noted. Your energy manipulation techniques are unlike any I've seen. Something like pride flickered in her expression. Use Kaylee's specialized in harmonic energy patterns, finding the resonant frequencies that underlie all key manifestations. Your own fusion represents a natural version of principles our scientists have studied for generations. Their discussion continued as subsequent matches proceeded, each revealing different aspects of enhanced capabilities. Android 18 dispatched her opponent with characteristic efficiency. Kyla demonstrated surprising effectiveness against a physically stronger alien fighter by exploiting momentum and technique to overcome power differentials. Between observations, Goku himself engaged in conversations that continued to shape his emerging identity. Valera's scientific interest in his unique energy signature. Kyla's practical assessment of his combat applications. Zia's ongoing documentation of his stabilization process. Each interaction contributing to his understanding of himself not as a composite of two previous beings, but as something new with its own purpose and potential. By late afternoon, the exhibition division's first round had concluded. The advancing competitors, including Goku, Valera, Kyla, and Android 18, gathered for announcement of the following day's schedule. Quarterfinal matches would begin in the morning, with semifinals and finals scheduled for afternoon competition. As the gathered fighters dispersed to rest and prepare, Goku found himself approached by the technologically sophisticated woman he had noticed earlier. Up close, her features revealed subtle enhancements. Neural interface nodes visible at her temples, eyes with microscopic mechanical components enhancing natural vision, fingers with precision articulation beyond normal human capability. Fascinating key manipulation technique you demonstrated, she stated without introduction. Her voice carrying harmonic undertones suggesting vocal enhancement, particularly the electronic system's disruption. I've been attempting similar applications through technological means with limited success. And you are? Goku inquired, intrigued by her direct approach. Mirais, she replied, extending a hand with confident precision. Lead researcher at Adaptive Technology Institute, specializing in key technology interface systems. Goku accepted the handshake, immediately noting the subtle energy conduits integrated into her palm, not merely mechanical enhancement. But channels designed to sense and potentially redirect key energy. Your technological integration is remarkable, he observed. Self-designed. Naturally, Mirais seemed pleased by his recognition. Commercial cybernetics remain laughably primitive. These are 63rd generation prototypes based on my original designs. She studied him with unconcealed scientific interest. Your fusion presents the most significant data point in biological energy integration since Cell, but with substantially more stable parameters. The comparison to Cell might have disturbed either Goku or Broly individually. But Goku found it merely an interesting analytical observation. The key difference being consent and compatibility. Cell forced absorption. This fusion represented harmonious integration of compatible energy patterns. Precisely. Mirais's eyes literally brightened as her enhancement systems engaged more fully in response to intellectual stimulation. Harmonic integration versus forced assimilation. The efficiency differentials are astronomical. She hesitated, then asked directly, would you consider participating in controlled observation sessions? The applications for energy, harmonization technology are potentially revolutionary. Before Goku could respond, Kyla rejoined them, eyeing Mirais with professional suspicion. Making new friends again, or being recruited as a research subject? Both, apparently, Goalie replied with mild amusement. Mirais turned to Kyla with analytical assessment. Your combat technique demonstrates impressive efficiency despite limited enhancement. Neural muscular coordination in the 98th percentile for unmodified humans. Some of us prefer skill over shortcuts, Kyla responded, though without real hostility. But your interfaces are impressive. I'll grant that. Custom work. Nothing less would suffice, Mirais confirmed. Standard augmentation lacks essential integration parameters. Their technical discussion continued as the three made their way toward the tournament exit, joined shortly by Valera, whose scientific interest in Mirais's technology reflected her colony's balanced approach to combat and research. The conversation flowed with surprising ease despite their dramatically different backgrounds: a human martial artist, a Saiyan colonist, a technological innovator, and Goalie with his unique integrated perspective. As they reached the exit, Goalie became aware of yet another presence observing them, a woman in nondescript clothing whose energy signature suggested significant power carefully concealed. Unlike the others, she made no move to approach, merely watching from a calculated distance with an expression suggesting professional assessment rather than casual interest. The day's events had progressed more smoothly than anyone might have predicted, his new existence accepted within the structured environment of competition, his capabilities demonstrated without excessive display, his IDNTITY continuing to solidify through interactions that treated him as neither Goku nor Broly but as Goalie, a unique entity with his own path forward. Tomorrow would bring greater challenges as the competition advanced to more capable opponents. But tonight offered opportunity for reflection on the progress already made, not just in tournament advancement, but in the more significant journey of self-definition and acceptance. As twilight descended over Papaya Island, painting the tournament grounds in deepening purple shadows, Goalie considered his rapidly expanding circle of connections. Some inherited from his component existences, others entirely new, each contributing to the emerging answer to the fundamental question that had defined his brief but intense existence. Not who he had been, but who he was becoming. Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, Shattered Boundaries. Morning light spilled across Papaya Island, transforming the ocean surrounding the tournament grounds into a glittering expanse of sapphire and gold. Competitors and spectators alike streamed through the entrance gates, anticipation building for the Exhibition Division quarterfinals scheduled to begin within the hour. Maintenance crews performed final checks on arena equipment while officials reviewed safety protocols, all standard tournament procedures hiding the extraordinary nature of today's competition. Beneath a solitary palm tree on the eastern edge of the grounds, Goalie sat in perfect meditation posture, eyes closed and breathing rhythmic. Unlike Goku's often restless preparation or Broly's tension-filled vigilance, Goalie prepared for combat through absolute stillness, finding balance between opposing tendencies within his integrated consciousness. Your energy signature has stabilized completely, observed Zia, materializing beside him with characteristic suddenness. Dimensional fluctuation patterns have harmonized into predictable oscillations. Goalie opened his eyes, the transition from deep meditation to present awareness seamless. Good morning to you too, Zia. The Guardian inclined her head slightly, acknowledging the gentle correction to her social protocol. Yes, morning greetings are customary. I trust your rest cycle was adequately restorative. Very. Goalie rose in one fluid motion, his balance perfect despite the shifting sand. I spent the night on the western cliffs. The ocean air helps me think. Curious preference, Zia noted. Neither of your component entities demonstrated particular affinity for marine environments in historical records. That's rather the point, Goalie replied with a slight smile. Discovering preferences unique to my integrated existence helps establish identity parameters distinct from either original personality. Zia's expression showed subtle appreciation for this analytical approach. Logical methodology. The council will find your self-actualization process informative. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Kyla. Her tournament attire replaced with simple black training clothes bearing a single embroidered emblem on the shoulder, a white crane in flight. Morning, Fusion Man, Guardian. She acknowledged them both with brief nods. Tournaments buzzing about yesterday's performances. Odds makers have you as overwhelming favorite, which surprises absolutely no one. I wasn't aware there was betting on the Exhibition Division. Goalie noted with mild amusement. Humans establish probability markets around all competitive events, Zia stated matter-of-factly. The practice appears universal across diamonds. Ions regardless of technological development level. Kyla shrugged. People like gambling on things they can't control. Speaking of which, the brackets for today were just posted. You're facing Android 18 in the semifinals. Interest flickered across Goali's features. Directly to semifinals. I thought there would be quarterfinals first. Last night's final match ended with both competitors requiring medical evacuation. Kyla explained. Tournament committee decided to advance the top-scoring participants directly to semifinals. You, 18, me, and the Saiyan scientist. Valera, Goalie supplied. Right, which means you're fighting the android, and I'm up against your Saiyan cousin or whatever she is. Kyla rolled her shoulders, working out tension. Should be interesting. You seem unconcerned about facing a Saiyan opponent. Goalie observed. Kyla's expression remained confidently neutral. Power differential isn't everything. Her techniques are impressive, but she telegraphs her intentions microseconds before execution. Against most opponents, that wouldn't matter. Against someone trained to recognize pre-attack patterns, she left the implication hanging. Goalie found himself appreciating her confidence. Not bravado, but the earned self-assurance of someone who understood their capabilities precisely. Speaking of interesting matchups, Kyla continued, your technology friend was looking for you earlier. Something about unusual energy readings overnight. Mirais. Goalie's attention sharpened. Did she mention specifics? Only that her sensors detected anomalous D-mensional frequencies around the island. Kyla's fingers formed air quotes around the technical terminology. Said she wanted your perspective before bringing it to the tournament officials. Before Goalie could respond, a subtle vibration passed through the ground beneath them, so slight it would have been imperceptible to ordinary human senses, but immediately noticeable to enhanced awareness. A moment later, it repeated with greater intensity. That's the third occurrence since dawn, Zia noted with professional concern. Frequency and amplitude increasing at logarithmic progression. Kyla glanced between them. You both felt that. Barely registered for me, and I'm trained to detect minor seismic activity. Not seismic, Goalie explained, extending his perceptions outward. Dimensional. The barriers between realities are experiencing stress patterns. Like mini earthquakes between dimensions. Kyla asked, demonstrating quick conceptual grasp despite the esoteric subject. Apt analogy, Zia confirmed. Reality fluctuations manifest in physical dimension as vibrational phenomena when approaching critical threshold. Another tremor, stronger than the previous, rippled outward. From somewhere near the center of the tournament grounds. This one lasted several seconds, causing nearby palm trees to sway visibly. That one even I could feel, Kyla acknowledged. Is this because of you? She directed the question to Goalie without accusation, merely seeking information. Partially, perhaps, he answered thoughtfully. My existence represents a dimensional anomaly, a fusion T shouldn't have stabilized according to conventional cosmic law. But these patterns suggest something else contributing to the instability. Multiple convergent factors, Zia theorized, her formal demeanor intensifying with professional concern. Your presence may be catalyzing pre-existing weakness points in dimensional integrity. Meaning what, exactly? Kyla pressed. Meaning we should find Mirais, Goalie decided. If she's detected anomalous readings, her technology might help identify the source. They made their way toward the tournament center, where competitors were gathering for the semifinal announcements. The atmosphere had shifted subtly. Excitement mingled with uncertainty as more spectators and officials became aware of the strange tremors affecting the grounds. They found Mirais in a restricted technical area adjacent to the main arena, surrounded by portable equipment of her own design. Multiple holographic displays projected complex data patterns that shifted in real time, while specialized sensors oriented toward different sectors of the island. Fascinating temporal spatial disruption patterns, she muttered, not looking up as they approached. 3 disti NCT frequency signatures overlapping in asymmetrical convergence points. Is that good or bad? Kyla asked bluntly. Mirais glanced up, cybernetic components in her eyes adjusting with subtle mechanical precision. Goalie, excellent timing. Your dimensional resonance pattern has stabilized, yet these fluctuations are intensifying. Contradicts my initial hypothesis. You believed I was causing the disturbances, Goalie surmised. Logical assumption given your quantum-level fusion event, Mirai confirmed, gesturing to a display showing his energy signature. But observational data suggests multiple causation factors. Your presence appears to be amplifying rather than generating the baseline instability. What exactly are we dealing with? Kyla asked, studying the displays with narrowed eyes. Mirai tapped a sequence into her interface, causing the central display to zoom outward. Dimensional barrier integrity has been compromised at 7 locations surrounding the island. Small breaches, currently stable, but expanding incrementally with each resonance cycle. Breaches to where? Goalie asked, immediately grasping the implications. Adjacent dimensional planes primarily, Mirai explained, bringing up visual representations. 3 connecting to parallel physical dimensions, 2 to temporal variance planes, 1 to what appears to be a void dimension, and 1, she hesitated, expression showing rare uncertainty. 1 that defies standard classification parameters. Goalie studied the displays with growing concern. His integrated consciousness provided unique perspective. On dimensional mechanics, Goku's practical experience with afterlife realms and divine domains combining with Broly's intuitive understanding of energy patterns beyond conventional definition. The tournament should be postponed, he concluded. These breaches may be stable now, but concentrated energy output from high-level competition could exacerbate the instability. Tournament officials UNL. Likely to accept interdimensional mechanics as legitimate postponement justification, Zia noted pragmatically. Without observable catastrophic effects, human administrative protocols typically prioritize scheduled events. As if responding to her assessment, the public address system activated. Attention all exhibition division semifinalists. Please report to the main arena for competitor introductions. Semifinal matches will begin in 15 minutes. Kyla sighed. Called it. Nobody cancels a major event because of weird energy readings and some tremors. Not until something actually explodes. These readings suggest explosion as increasingly probable outcome, Mirai observed with clinical detachment. Dimensional pressure differentials approaching critical threshold at breach points alpha and gamma. Goalie made a quick decision. I'll participate in the semifinals as scheduled. My match against Android 18 might actually help. Controlled energy output could temporarily stabilize local dimensional frequencies through harmonic resonance. And if it doesn't, Kyla asked, then we'll have all the key players already gathered when things go wrong, Goalie replied with pragmatic optimism that balanced Goku's hopefulness with Broly's preparedness for disaster. Mirai nodded approval. Practical approach. I'll continue monitoring breach parameters and establish communication channel. She tapped her temple where a subtle neural interface was visible. Calibrated to your unique energy signature. Will allow real-time data transmission during your match. I should inform the council of these developments. Zia stated. Dimensional breaches of this nature fall under mandatory reporting protocols. Do that, Goalie agreed. But perhaps maintain physical presence here. If intervention becomes necessary, having a guardian on site could prove essential. Zia considered this request before nodding formally. Logical prioritization. Will submit remote report while maintaining observation position. With their impromptu response team established, Goalie and Kyla headed toward the main arena while Mirai returned to her monitoring equipment and Zia positioned herself strategically near the tournament officials' booth. The semifinal introductions proceeded with standard ceremonial flourish, dramatic announcer commentary, enthusiastic crowd response, and the 4 remaining competitors standing at attention as tournament officials explained the adjusted competition format. Android 18 acknowledged Goalie with a slight nod as their names were announced for the first semifinal match. Her expression remained characteristically impassive, though Goalie detected subtle shifts in her energy signature suggesting heightened combat readiness. As they took their positions on opposite sides of the platform, Goalie extended his awareness beyond the immediate surroundings. The dimensional fluctuations continued at increasing intervals, each slightly stronger than the last. Most spectators remained oblivious, but he noticed Piccolo's expression from the observation stands, the Namekian clearly sensing the disturbances with his own enhanced perception. Competitors ready, called the referee, receiving confirmation from both fighters. Begin. Android 18 attacked immediately. No wasted motion, no theatrical display, just pure efficiency as she closed distance with superhuman speed. Her opening combination demonstrated why she remained one of Earth's most formidable fighters despite rarely participating in its defense: perfect technical execution enhanced by cybernetic precision. Goalie matched her movements exactly, neither advancing nor retreating but engaging in perfect defensive symmetry. Each strike met appropriate block, each tactical shift countered with equivalent adjustment. To observers, it appeared like choreographed demonstration rather than competitive combat, two masters executing flawless technique in balanced opposition. "Your control has improved since our last sparring session," 18 observed as they separated momentarily. "Goku always relied too much on improvisation. Broly on overwhelming force. You've integrated their approaches effectively." "Thank you," Goalie replied sincerely. "Your assessment means a great deal coming from someone with your technical precision." "Flattery won't stop me from winning," she noted with the barest hint of a smile. Launching into a new attack sequence that incorporated energy projection alongside physical strikes. Their exchange intensified, energy discharges creating brilliant light displays as attacks met counterattacks in perfect equilibrium. Goalie maintained precise control over his power output, utilizing enough to make the match legitimate competition while carefully modulating frequency patterns to stabilize rather than exacerbate the dimensional fluctuations. Through Miraz's neural link, data flowed directly to his awareness, dimensional resonance responding positively to controlled energy output. Breach stability increased by 12% at locations alpha through delta. Encouraged by this feedback, Goalie adjusted his technique further, synchronizing his key manifestations to the counter frequency patterns Miraz's instruments had identified. The match continued with increasing intensity, Android 18 matching his escalation with her own impressive capabilities. "You're fighting with a specific pattern," 18 observed during another momentary separation. "Not maximizing competitive advantage. Something else is happening." It wasn't a question but a statement of analytical fact. Quote, "Dimensional instabilities surrounding the island," Goalie confirmed quietly. "My energy output is helping stabilize them temporarily." 18 processed this information with machine efficiency. "Understood. Should I adjust my approach to assist stabilization efforts?" "If you could gradually increase output while maintaining precise frequency control," Goalie suggested. "The harmonic resonance between energy signatures might help strengthen dimensional barriers." Without further discussion, 18 modified her fighting style, still competitive, still impressive for spectators, but now deliberately synchronizing with Goalie's energy patterns to create stabilizing resonance effects. Their combat evolved into something beyond mere tournament display, becoming a sophisticated energy manipulation exercise disguised as martial arts competition. Through Miraz's link, continued updates confirmed their approach was working. Breaches alpha through epsilon showing 37% reduction in expansion rate. Dimensional pressure differentials normalizing at 5 locations. For several minutes, their strategy appeared successful. The tremors subsided, dimensional readings stabilized, and the match progressed toward what would appear to observers as a natural conclusion, both competitors demonstrating exceptional skill while gradually approaching decision point. Then everything changed in an instant. A violent tremor unlike previous fluctuations ripped through the arena, powerful enough to crack the reinforced platform and cause spectators to grab railings for stability. The sky above the tournament grounds rippled like disturbed water, colors shifting through impossible spectrums. "Warning." Miraz's voice came urgently through the neural link. "Catastrophic breach event at location Zeta. Dimensional barrier collapse imminent." Goalie and 18 abandoned their match immediately, both turning toward the disturbance now visible to everyone, a swirling vortex of energy materializing above the southern corner of the stadium. The phenomenon expanded rapidly, its edges pulsing with chaotic energy discharges that warped the surrounding air. Tournament officials rushed to initiate evacuation protocols as panicked spectators began fleeing toward exits. Through the confusion, Goalie spotted Kyla and Valera already moving toward the disturbance, while Zia had positioned herself between the vortex and the main spectator stands, hands raised in formal gestures of containment. "Breach has destabilized completely," Miraz reported, her voice maintaining clinical precision despite the crisis. "Unknown entities emerging through dimensional aperture." As if confirming her analysis, Dark shapes began materializing from the swirling vortex, humanoid figures with distorted proportions and energy signatures unlike anything native to Earth's dimension. Their forms seemed partially transparent, solidifying progressively as they emerged fully into this reality. Goku assessed the situation with integrated tactical understanding. Goku's experience with extra-dimensional threats combining with Broly's instinctive threat evaluation. These weren't random manifestations but organized incursion forces, dimensional raiders taking advantage of weakened barriers. 18. Help evacuate civilians, he directed, receiving immediate acknowledgement as the android moved with superhuman speed toward the most densely packed spectator section. Through their established neural link, he addressed Mirai. Can you identify what dimension they're coming from? Negative, she replied. Signature matches no catalog dimensional frequency. These entities exist outside standard cosmic cartography. The invaders, now numbering over a dozen with more emerging continuously, began spreading outward from their arrival point. Their movements suggested military precision despite their alien appearance, forming tactical patterns to secure the breach site while advance units engaged defensive assets. One such unit targeted Zia directly, recognizing her guardian status as primary threat. 3 entities converged on her position, projecting distortion fields that warped the space around her containment gestures. Huff visibly straining against their combined assault, she maintained her barrier, preventing the breach from expanding further into the spectator areas. Kyla and Valera reached the nearest invaders, engaging with impressive coordination despite having never fought together. Kyla's martial precision complemented Valera's energy manipulation techniques, allowing them to effectively counter the disorienting dimensional abilities their opponents employed. We need to close that breach, Goku determined, launching himself toward the vortex center. As he approached, several invaders redirected to intercept him, clearly recognizing the threat level he represented. Their attack techniques revealed disturbing capabilities, not just physical combat but manipulation of local dimensional properties. Space distorted around their movements, making conventional defensive calculations unreliable. Strikes seemed to connect from impossible angles, while defensive positions shifted unpredictably between attack sequences. Goku adapted quickly, drawing on integrated combat experience to develop counter-strategies. Where Goku might have relied on instinctive reaction and Broly on overwhelming force, Goku employed calculated precision informed by comprehensive understanding of dimensional mechanics. He adjusted his perceptions to track not just physical positions but dimensional frequency patterns, allowing him to anticipate spatial distortions before they manifested. His counterattacks targeted not the entities themselves but the connection points between their native dimensional frequency and local reality, disrupting their ability to maintain consistent materialization. The approach proved effective, forcing his opponents to expend increasing energy maintaining physical cohesion in Earth's dimension. Through the neural link, Mirai provided continuous analytical support. Entity composition appears partially phase-shifted, targeting dimensional anchor points. Optimal strategy for neutralization. As Goku cleared a path toward the breach, Valera disengaged from her own opponents to join his advance. These entities employ dimensional shifting techniques similar to theoretical models from our colony research, she observed, her scientific background evident even in combat. They're not fully materialized in our dimension, existing simultaneously in multiple planes, which makes conventional attacks less effective, Goku concluded. We need to force complete materialization or complete banishment. The in-between state gives them tactical advantages. Precisely. My colony developed theoretical countermeasures, though we never encountered actual dimensional invaders. Valera's hands traced complex patterns as she spoke, energy gathering between her fingers in intricate geometric configurations. Harmonic resonance fields can disrupt multi-dimensional phasing if calibrated to local dimensional frequency. Goku immediately grasped the concept. Like forcing a specific vibrational state that only allows existence in one dimension at a time. Yes, can you match this resonance pattern? She projected a complex energy matrix for demonstration. Goku analyzed the pattern briefly before replicating it perfectly, his unique fusion-based capabilities allowing immediate comprehension of techniques that would have required extensive explanation for either original personality. Together, They projected complementary resonance fields that expanded outward in concentric waves. Where these waves encountered dimensional raiders, the effects were immediate and dramatic. I see. Entities forced either into complete materialization in Earth's dimension or violently ejected back toward the breach. Effective countermeasure. Mirais commented through the link. Dimensional NCHORING failure rate among entities increased to 78%. With the immediate threat to civilians contained, Goku focused on the breach itself. The swirling vortex had stabilized at approximately 20 meters diameter. Its edges still discharging chaotic energy that distorted surrounding space. Through enhanced perception, he could see beyond the visible manifestation to the actual dimensional tier. A fracture in reality's fundamental structure. The breach cannot be sealed through conventional energy projection, Zia called from her position, still maintaining protective barriers around civilian evacuation routes. Dimensional fractures require harmonic restoration of boundary integrity. In practical terms, Kyla asked, rejoining them after dispatching her opponents. We need to match the exact counter frequency to the breach's dimensional signature, Goku explained. Like finding the precise note that will shatter a crystal, but in reverse, the harmonic that will restructure broken patterns. My instruments can identify the required counter frequency, Mirais offered through their connection. But generating sufficient amplitude for complete closure exceeds standard projection capabilities. Goku considered their options, integrating technical understanding with practical experience. I can generate the necessary amplitude, but need precise frequency identification. How quickly can you calculate the harmonics? Quote, already processing, Mirais replied. Dimensional mathematics are complex but not beyond computational parameters. Estimate complete solution in 47 seconds. While waiting for Mirais's calculations, Goku, Valera, and Kyla maintained defensive positions against continuing emergence of dimensional invaders. The entities seemed to recognize their breach was threatened, increasing both numbers and aggression of units targeting the defenders. These aren't mindless invaders, Kyla noted as they repelled another coordinated assault. They're ADA, pitting to our counter techniques with each engagement. Agreed, Valera confirmed. Their tactical adjustments suggest collective intelligence or advanced command structure. The observation concerned Goku deeply. Random dimensional incursions were dangerous but typically limited in scope. Organized invasion forces with adaptive intelligence represented a far greater threat, especially if they specifically targeted this location due to pre-existing dimensional weaknesses. Counter-frequency calculation complete, Mirais announced. Transmitting harmonic pattern now. The information flow, wed directly into Goku's awareness, not simply numerical data but comprehensive dimensional mathematics translated into energy manipulation parameters. His integrated consciousness processed this information instantly, understanding both the theoretical framework and practical application simultaneously. I need to get closer to the breach center, he determined. The counter frequency must be applied directly to the fracture point for maximum effectiveness. We'll create an opening, Valera stated, exchanging brief nods with Kyla. Together they launched coordinated attacks against the entities guarding the breach perimeter, creating momentary disruption in their defensive formation. Goku moved with perfect timing, accelerating through the gap at speeds barely visible to ordinary perception. As he approached the vortex center, he began gathering energy, not the conventional key used in standard combat techniques, but a more fundamental force drawing from his unique existence as a dimensional anomaly himself. The teal energy surrounding him shifted into complex patterns matching the counter-frequency Mirais had calculated. Unlike brute force attacks, this required perfect harmonic precision, each energy wave exactly calibrated to reinforce dimensional boundary integrity rather than simply overwhelming the breach with power. At the critical moment, Goku released the accumulated energy directly into the breach core. The effect was visually subtle but dimensionally profound, ripples of restructuring force spreading outward from impact point, realigning fractured patterns into original configuration. The vortex began contracting immediately, its chaotic energy discharges stabilizing into predictable patterns before gradually diminishing in both intensity and scope. Dimensi. Onal raiders still materialized caught between realities found themselves violently pulled back toward their origin point, unable to maintain presence as the pathway between dimensions sealed. Breach closure at 32% and accelerating, Mirais reported. Dimensional integrity restoring at geometric progression rate. Within moments, the massive vortex had contracted to mere meters in diameter, then further to centimeters, before finally collapsing completely with a thunderous sound like air rushing to fill vacuum. A final pulse of energy radiated outward, harmless but visible as rippling distor. Cheon passing through solid objects before dissipating. Silence fell across the tournament grounds, broken only by distant sirens and the confused murmuring of spectators who had witnessed the event from safe distance. The immediate crisis had passed, though evidence of the incursion remained in damaged infrastructure and the disturbing implications of organized dimensional invasion. Breach sealed successfully. Mirais confirmed through their link. Dimensional boundary integrity restored to 92% of baseline parameters at this location. Goalie landed beside Valera, Kyla, and Zia, who had maintained defensive positions throughout the closure process. All showed signs of exertion, even Zia's formal composure slightly compromised by the significant energy expenditure required for Guardian-level containment protocols. "Is it over?" Kyla asked directly, her practical nature focusing on immediate tactical assessment. "This breach is closed," Zia clarified with precise terminology. However, dimensional integrity remains compromised at multiple locations surrounding this island. Secondary incursion events remain probable within projected timeframe. Translation: "We plugged one hole, but there are more ready to pop," Kyla summarized. "And these weren't random dimensional entities," Goalie noted with growing concern. "Their coordinated tactics suggest organized invasion forces specifically targeting dimensional weaknesses." Quote, "Agreed," Valera said. "Their energy signatures contained embedded command protocols, hierarchical organization patterns consistent with military structure rather than chaotic dimensional phenomena." Quote, "Mirais joined them physically now, her portable equipment secured in a compact backpack configuration. Up close, the signs of intense concentration were visible in her expression despite her cybernetic enhancement's regulatory effects. Dimensional breach analysis complete, she reported without preamble. 7 additional potential fracture points detected within 50-kilometer radius, all showing increased instability following closure of primary breach, like pressure redistributing when one release point is sealed. We need to address these breach points before they fully manifest," Goalie concluded. "Reactive response to fully formed incursions risks civilian casualties and property destruction. Proactive dimensional stabilization would require precise identification of fracture coordinates followed by application of targeted harmonic reinforcement," Zia stated. "Such methodology exceeds standard Guardian protocols without Council authorization. And waiting for cosmic bureaucracy means fighting more invasions after they've already happened," Kyla observed dryly. Goalie considered their options, integrating tactical assessment with ethical considerations. "Mirais, can your technology identify the exact coordinates of potential breach points?" "Affirmative. Current sensors can triangulate dimensional fracture coordinates with 97.8% accuracy." She tapped the equipment secured to her back. "Mobile units allow on-site analysis and countermeasure calibration. Then we form response teams," Goalie decided. "Locate each potentia L breach point and apply preventative stabilization before full manifestation occurs. The Council will require notification of unauthorized dimensional intervention," Zia noted, though her tone suggested procedural observation rather than objection. "Submit notification," Goalie acknowledged. "But with classification as emergency response protocol rather than policy violation. The dimensional entities have demonstrated hostile intent and organizational capacity, qualifying as imminent threat under Section 12 of Cosmic Oversight Parameters." Zia's expression showed subtle appreciation for his familiarity with bureaucratic procedures. "Accurate citation of regulatory framework. Notification will be formatted accordingly." As they organized their response approach, tournament officials cautiously re-emerged from shelter positions. The chief referee approached their group with evident trepidation, clearly struggling to process what he'd witnessed. "The committee has decided to temporarily suspend competition pending safety evaluation," he announced with admirable composure given the circumstances. "Though I'm not entirely certain what to put in the official report regarding whatever that was. Dimensional anomaly with associated manifestation phenomena," Mirais supplied helpfully. "Standard terminology for official documentation purposes." The referee blinked twice before nodding slowly. Right, that, well, we'll need to assess structural integrity before determining if competition can resume. Wise precaution, goalie agreed. Though I believe our participation will be required elsewhere for the immediate future. After the official departed, they quickly established their approach. Miraz's equipment identified 7 potential breach locations distributed around Papaya Island's perimeter, each requiring specific harmonic stabilization calibrated to its unique dimensional frequency. Most efficient approach suggests 3 teams, Miraz recommended, laying a holographic map with breach points marked. Northwestern quadrant contains 3 potential manifestation sites in close proximity. Eastern shoreline contains 2. Southern peninsula contains remaining 2. I'll take the northwest, goalie decided. Those sites show highest instability readings according to your data. Southern sites demonstrate unusual dimensional signatures requiring specialized containment protocols. Zia observed. My Guardian capabilities would be optimally deployed to that location. I'll accompany the Guardian, Kyla volunteered pragmatically. My combat techniques are adaptable to unconventional opponents if something emerges before stabilization completes. Which leaves eastern shoreline for us, Valera concluded, nodding toward Miraz. Your technical expertise with my colony's dimensional theories should prove effective combination. With teams established and communication protocols confirmed through Miraz's neural network, they prepared to depart. Android 18 rejoined them briefly, having completed civilian evacuation assistance. Situation contained, she asked directly. Goalie provided concise summary of their findings and response plan. Understood. I'll inform Krillin and the others to maintain perimeter security around the tournament grounds. If additional breaches manifest near population centers, immediate response will be necessary. With these arrangements complete, the 3 teams departed toward their assigned locations, goalie flying northwest over dense forest terrain, Zia and Kyla heading south along coastal cliffs, and Valera escorting Miraz east toward rocky shoreline. As goalie accelerated toward his targets, he reflected on how naturally leadership had emerged from his integrated consciousness. Neither Goku nor Broly had been strategic commanders, the former preferring individual action with minimal planning, the latter rarely functioning within team frameworks at all. Yet his fusion had created not just combined power but synthesized cognitive approaches that allowed him to coordinate complex responses while considering multiple tactical and ethical factors simultaneously. Miraz's voice through the IR neural link interrupted his reflection, approaching first eastern breach site. Dimensional frequency fluctuations increasing at all locations. Estimate window of opportunity for preventative stabilization approximately 47 minutes before simultaneous manifestation becomes probable. Understood, goalie acknowledged, increasing velocity toward his first target. The forest below blurred into green continuity as he pushed his flight capabilities to maximum sustainable speed without energy expenditure that might further destabilize dimensional boundaries. His enhanced perception detected the first northwestern breach site before visual confirmation, a subtle distortion in reality's fabric manifesting as shimmering irregularity approximately 50 meters above a small clearing. As he approached, the distortion became more pronounced, space folding inward upon itself in patterns identical to the tournament manifestation's early stages. Landing in the clearing, goalie established direct sensory connection with the dimensional anomaly. Unlike conventional energy signatures that registered as distinct patterns, dimensional breaches manifested as absences, negative spaces where reality's consistent rules deteriorated into chaotic potential. Northwestern Site Alpha located, he reported through their link. Early manifestation stage with pronounced frequency instability. Beginning harmonic stabilization procedure. Drawing upon the techniques demonstrated earlier, goalie generated counter-frequency energy patterns calibrated specifically to this breach's unique dimensional signature. The process required perfect concentration, each harmonic layer building upon previous foundations to gradually restructure reality's damaged framework. Unlike the reactive closure at the tournament, preventative stabilization allowed more subtle approach, reinforcing weakened boundaries before complete rupture occurred. The energy requirements were substantially lower, but precision demands significantly higher. For 20 minutes, goalie maintained absolute focus, adjusting harmonic patterns as the breach responded to stabilization efforts. Gradually, the dimensional distortion contracted, its chaotic energy signatures realigning with proper universal constants until finally, with a soft sound like distant wind chimes, the potential rupture sealed completely. Northwestern site alpha stabilized, he confirmed. Proceeding to secondary location. Through their communication link, similar reports arrived from other teams. Eastern site alpha stabilized, Valera's composed voice reported. Mirize's calibration technology proved remarkably effective when synchronized with colony reinforcement techniques. Southern site alpha stabilization in progress, Zia added formally. Anomalous dimensional properties requiring modified approach. Guardian protocols partially effective but experiencing unexpected resistance patterns. This last report concerned Goalie as he moved toward his second target. Resistance patterns. Clarify nature of resistance. The dimensional frequency demonstrates adaptive reconfiguration, Zia explained. As if responding intelligently to stabilization attempts rather than following standard entropic patterns. Confirming similar phenomena at Eastern Site Beta, Mirize added. Breach characteristics exhibiting coordinated adjustment to counteract harmonic stabilization. Consistent with deliberately maintained dimensional apertures rather than natural degradation. The implications were disturbing. Natural dimensional weaknesses OCCU. RRED throughout the multiverse, typically random, following predictable decay patterns when manifesting breaches. Deliberately maintained apertures suggested intelligence with advanced understanding of dimensional mechanics, entities capable of targeting specific locations for invasion purposes. Adjust approach accordingly, Goalie advised. If these breaches are being maintained from the other side, complete closure may require neutralizing the maintaining force rather than simply reinforcing our side of the boundary. Understood, both teams acknowledged as Goalie reached his second target. His breach had progressed further than the first, the dimensional distortion now visible even to normal perception as a swirling vortex approximately 2 meters in diameter. Space around its perimeter exhibited pronounced warping effects. Vegetation growing at impossible angles and small objects occasionally levitating briefly before returning to ground. More concerning were the energy signatures. Pulsing from within the distortion, organized patterns rather than chaotic emissions, suggesting directed force from the opposite side of the dimensional barrier. Northwestern Site Beta shows evidence of external manipulation. Goalie reported. Energy patterns consistent with deliberate expansion attempts rather than natural manifestation. Consistent with our observations, Valera confirmed. His breaches appear to be coordinated attack points rather than random dimensional failures. Goalie approached the breach carefully, analyzing its structure beyond visible manifestation. Through enhanced perception, he could detect the underlying mathematical patterns and the disturbing irregularities that confirmed external influence. Rather than generating standard counter-frequency harmonics, he adjusted his approach to identify the external manipulation patterns. By isolating these signatures, he could potentially trace them to their source, identifying not just the breach itself but the entity or technology maintaining it from the opposite dimension. Attempting trace protocol on manipulation signature, he informed the others, may provide identification of entities attempting incursion. The process required extraordinary precision, separating naturally occurring dimensional frequencies from artificially introduced patterns while maintaining sufficient counter-harmonics to prevent the breach from expanding further. Goalie's unique integrated consciousness proved perfectly suited for this complex task, able to simultaneously track multiple frequency layers while conducting analytical assessment of manipulation signatures. After several minutes of intensive focus, a pattern emerged, distinct enough to identify its fundamental nature if not its specific origin. Trace analysis complete, he reported. Manipulation signature contains technological component with integrated biological elements. Not pure mechanical, not pure organic, but sophisticated synthesis of both approaches. Confirms suspicions of advanced hostile intelligence, Zia noted. Council records contain references to several dimensional domains employing biotechnological integration methods. Can you close the breach despite the external manipulation? Kyla asked, her question reflecting practical combat priorities. Yes, but it requires modified approach, Goalie explained, already implementing the adjusted technique. Rather than directly opposing the breach itself, he generated harmonic patterns that specifically disrupted the external manipulation frequencies, essentially severing the connection between the breach and whatever was maintaining it from the other side. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Without external support, the dimensional distortion began collapsing rapidly, i.e. swirling energy patterns dissipating as natural universal constants reasserted dominance over local space-time. Northwestern Site Beta secured, Goalie confirmed. Approach confirmed effective against externally maintained breaches. Transmitting modified technique parameters to all teams, Mirais acknowledged. Implementing at Eastern Site Beta with similar results. Breach stability increasing exponentially as external manipulation neutralized. Southern sites demonstrating greater resistance, Zia reported. External manipulation patterns more deeply integrated with natural dimensional fabric. Require increased power allocation to neutralization protocols. Proceeding to Northwestern Site Gamma to complete assigned sector, Goalie responded, already moving toward his final target. As he approached the third location, Goalie became aware of a disturbing development. Unlike the previous sites, this breach had progressed significantly further, a fully formed vortex nearly 5 meters in diameter with pronounced environmental effects extending several hundred meters in all directions. More concerning, his enhanced perception detected energy signatures already emerging through He breach, advance elements of invasion forces similar to those encountered at the tournament, but with more sophisticated dimensional phasing capabilities. Northwestern Site Gamma has progressed to active incursion stage, he reported urgently. Hostiles already emerging. Require immediate intervention. Completing Eastern Sector stabilization and redirecting to your location, Valero responded promptly. Estimated arrival in 3 minutes. Southern sites contained but not fully stabilized, Zia added. Kyla can maintain suppression protocols while I redirect to tertiary northwestern location. Negative. Goalie countermanded. Complete your current assignments first. Premature disengagement risks breach re-establishment. I can handle this location temporarily. Without waiting for acknowledgement, Goalie accelerated directly toward the active breach, assessing tactical options with integrated combat expertise. The emerging entities, 6 already fully materialized with more partial Ly manifesting, had established defensive perimeter around the dimensional aperture while advance units began systematic environmental scanning. Their appearance confirmed the biotechnological nature revealed by trace analysis. Humanoid in basic configuration but with pronounced mechanical integrations, not crude attachments but seamless synthesis where biological and technological components functioned as unified systems. Their armor incorporated living tissue components while organic elements displayed mechanical precision in movement and function. Goalie announced his presence deliberately, ending at calculated distance that would draw attention without immediately triggering defensive response. As expected, all entities immediately oriented toward him, scanning equipment integrated into their sensory systems gathering data on his power signature and physiological parameters. Dimensional breach detected. Unauthorized entry protocol initiated, Goalie stated formally, intentionally mimicking official notification language. This dimensional plane operates under protected status designation. Immediate withdrawal required. The entities showed no visible reaction to his declaration, but subtle shifts in their positioning indicated tactical communication occurring. After brief pause, one entity, distinguished by more elaborate biomechanical integration patterns, stepped forward. Anomaly entity detected, it stated in heavily modulated voice that suggested translation through multiple systems. Designation. Fusion state being. Classification. Priority acquisition target. He declaration confirmed Goalie's growing concern. These weren't random invaders but specifically directed forces with predetermined objectives. More disturbing, they appeared to have prior knowledge of his existence despite his recent creation. You know what I am, he noted, maintaining calculated distance while continuing assessment. Which means your incursion isn't opportunistic but targeted. Correct assessment. The entity confirmed with mechanical precision. Dimensional mapping identified energy signature consistent with theoretical fusion state potential. Acquisition directive issued by Convergence Protocol. And what exactly does your Convergence Protocol want with me? Goalie inquired, simultaneously preparing energy harmonics for breach closure once sufficient information was obtained. Integration of dimensional anomalies essential to convergence objective. Your energy signature represents optimal synthesis parameters. The entity's integrated scanning systems intensified. Voluntary submission preferred. Forcible extraction authorized if necessary. I'll decline both options, Goalie replied evenly, shifting subtly into optimal combat stance while continuing to gather counter-frequency energies. Last opportunity to withdraw peacefully. The entity made no further verbal response. Instead, all materialized invaders simultaneously activated combat systems, biological components secreting chemical enhancers while technological elements reconfigured for offensive deployment. Their coordinated movement suggested collective tactical control rather than individual decision-making. Goalie responded with precisely calculated preemptive strike, not targeting the entities directly but the dimensional breach behind them. The harmonic energy pattern he had been subtly gathering released in concentrated burst, specifically calibrated to disrupt the connection between the breach and its external manipulation source. The effect was immediate but not as complete as previous locations. The breach contracted significantly but stabilized at approximately 2 meters diameter rather than closing entirely, suggesting more sophisticated maintenance systems than encountered at other sites. With their reinforcement pathway compromised but not eliminated, the entities launched coordinated attack. Their combat techniques confirmed advanced dimensional manipulation abilities, strikes seeming to originate from multiple angles simultaneously as they partially phased between dimensional states during movement. Goalie adapted his defense accordingly, drawing on integrated understanding of dimensional mechanics to predict manifestation points before attacks fully materialized. Rather than attempting to track physical positions, he focused on energy signature patterns that preceded dimensional phase shifts, effectively countering attacks at origination rather than delivery. This approach proved effective against individual opponents but faced increasing challenge as their collective tactics evolved. The entities demonstrated disturbing adaptive capabilities, each failed attack sequence followed by tactical adjustments that addressed identified weaknesses. Analysis of combat effectiveness decreasing at logarithmic rate, observed the lead entity with emotionless precision. Adaptation complete in estimated 73 seconds. Submission inevitable. That analysis fails to account for variables beyond standard parameters, Goalie responded, simultaneously executing complex counter-sequence that neutralized 3 attackers through precisely targeted energy projections. The remaining entities immediately recalibrated, shifting formation to protect the partially closed breach while continuing evolutionary combat adaptations. Their coordination suggested networked intelligence, each unit learning collectively from individual encounters. Goalie recognized standard approach would eventually prove insufficient as adaptation continued. Instead of assisting with conventional combat techniques, he implemented more fundamental strategy drawing on his unique nature as dimensional anomaly himself. His teal aura intensified, energy patterns shifting into configurations that directly affected dimensional stability around him. Rather than fighting the entities within standard physical parameters, he adjusted local dimensional constants to neutrally their phase-shifting advantages, essentially forcing single-dimensional manifestation within his immediate vicinity. The effect was dramatic and immediate. Entities caught mid-phase during attack sequences found themselves forcibly materialized in awkward positions, their dimensional advantages neutralized by localized reality stabilization. Without ability to shift between states, their combat effectiveness reduced substantially. Technological advantages impressive but insufficient against Goalie's superior martial capabilities. Within moments, all attacking units had been neutralized, not destroyed but rendered temporarily inoperative through precisely targeted strikes to biotechnological integration nodes. Their systems remained functional at maintenance level, allowing potential interrogation without permanent deactivation. Turning attention to the partially closed breach, Goalie prepared more comprehensive stabilization technique. With external manipulation weakened by initial counter-harmonic strike, complete closure required only sufficient power properly calibrated to breach's specific frequency. As he gathered necessary energy, Valera arrived at the location, having completed her assigned sector and redirected as previously indicated. Her expression showed professional assessment as she surveyed the neutralized entities and partially sealed breach. Efficient containment, she observed approvingly. Though I note you employed non-lethal neutralization despite clearly hostile intent. They possess intelligence and potentially valuable information, Goalie explained. Continuing breach closure preparations. Destruction without attempted knowledge acquisition would be wasteful. Valera nodded, immediately grasping strategic reasoning. Their biotechnological integration is unlike any colonial records describe. Advanced synthesis methodology suggesting extensive development period, and specific knowledge of dimensional manipulation techniques targeted to this reality, Goalie added. Their leader identified me as acquisition target, with prior knowledge of fusion state characteristics. This information visibly concerned Valera. Impossible. Your fusion occurred days ago. No information could have reached adjacent dimensions within that timeframe unless they were already monitoring this dimensional plane before my creation, Goalie completed her thought. Suggesting long-term surveillance preceding today's incursion attempt. Their discussion paused as Goalie implemented final closure sequence. The harmonic energy pattern expanded outward from his controlled projection, interacting with breach frequencies to gradually realign dimensional boundaries. Unlike previous locations, this breach demonstrated residual resistance despite neutralization of external manipulation, suggesting more fundamental dimensional damage requiring extended restoration process. After several minutes of concentrated effort, the breach finally sealed completely, reality snapping back into proper alignment with subtle shock wave that briefly distorted nearby vegetation before normalizing. Northwestern sector completely stabilized, Goalie reported through their communication link. Hostiles neutralized and contained. Breach closure successful but showing signs of potential reactivation without continued harmonic reinforcement. Eastern sector secured without further incident. Mirais confirmed. Heading to your location to analyze captured entities. Their biotechnological composition represents significant research opportunity. Southern sector stabilization complete. Zia added. Though dimensional readings suggest persistent weakness patterns throughout regional space-time fabric. These breaches were symptoms rather than primary phenomenon, meaning they could reopen or new ones could form elsewhere, Kyla translated practically. Correct assessment, Zia confirmed. Complete dimensional stability would require identifying a ND addressing root causation factor rather than individual manifestations. As the others converged on Northwestern Site Gamma, Goalie and Valera began preliminary examination of captured entities. The IR biotechnological integration demonstrated extraordinary sophistication, not merely mechanical components attached to biological systems but true synthesis where distinction between organic and technological became meaningless. Cellular structure incorporates metallic components at molecular level, Valera observed, her scientific training evident as she examined one inert entity. Not implantation but fundamental integration, as if grown together from inception. Their dimensional phasing capabilities appear technologically generated but biologically controlled, Goalie noted. Neural path ways directly interfaced with phase shift generators, allowing intuitive navigation between dimensional states. Mirais arrived first, immediately engaging full scanning protocols with equipment specifically designed for advanced technological analysis. Her cybernetic enhancements interfaced directly with scanning equipment, allowing real-time processing beyond conventional computational capabilities. Fascinating integration methodology, she commented, eyes literally glowing as enhanced visual systems processed incoming data. Biological components show evidence of directed evolution rather than natural selection patterns. Technological elements incorporate organic computational principles not theoretically possible with standard materials science. Can you access their information systems? Goalie inquired. Their leader referenced something called Convergence Protocol, that apparently authorized this incursion specifically to acquire me. Attempting interface connection, Mirais confirmed. Extending specialized equipment toward nearest entity's neural integration node. Significant encryption detected. Adaptive security protocols actively resisting external access attempts. While Mirais worked on technological access, Zia and Kyla arrived to complete their impromptu response team. Zia immediately began formal dimensional assessment, her Guardian protocols allowing direct perception of residual breach characteristics beyond even Goalie's enhanced awareness. This breach demonstrates distinct formation patterns from standard dimensional weaknesses, she reported after thorough examination. Natural deterioration typically presents symmetric frequency degradation across boundary interface. This manifestation shows precisely calculated frequency disruption at mathematically significant intervals. Deliberately created rather than naturally occurring, Goly surmised. Correct. Zia confirmed. This was not opportunistic exploitation of existing weakness but calculated creation of artificial breach point using advanced dimensional technology. Who has that capability? Kyla asked the practical question as she maintained security perimeter around their position. Extremely limited possibilities according to Council records, Zia replied with unusual gravity. Most dimensional domains lack sufficient understanding of boundary mechanics to implement directed breach creation. Access achieved, Mirais announced suddenly, her cybernetic systems pulsing with increased activity. Partial data extraction in progress. Security countermeasures active but temporarily contained. The others gathered around as Mirais projected holographic representation of accessed information, complex data structures translating into visual formats as her systems processed raw information streams. Fascinating, she murmured as data materialized. These entities belong to something called the Harmonic Convergence Directive, Interdimensional Organization Dedicate. Ed to identification and acquisition of boundary anomalies across multiple realities. Boundary anomalies like me, Goly noted with growing concern. Precisely. Your fusion event registered on they are monitoring systems as highest priority acquisition target. Mirais continued translating data streams. Their records indicate extensive surveillance networks spanning multiple dimensions, specifically calibrated to detect fusion events, boundary crossings, and other phenomena they classify as integration potential sources. What exactly do they want with these anomalies? Valera asked the crucial question. Mirais's expression grew more serious as she processed deeper information layers. According to partial records, they're constructing something called the Convergence Engine, a massive interdimensional device designed to. This can't be correct. She paused, cybernetic systems visibly recalibrating as if struggling with translated concepts. What? Kyla pressed impatiently. They appear to be attempting to merge selected dimensions into single consolidated reality, Mirais finally continued. The convergence engine allegedly requires energy signatures from boundary anomalies, beings or phenomena existing partially outside conventional dimensional parameters, to stabilize the merger process. That's cosmologically impossible, Zia stated with rare emotional intensity. Forced dimensional convergence violates fundamental universal constants. Attempting such merger would create catastrophic reality collapse affecting all connected dimensional planes. Which may explain their interest in Goly. Valera theorized. A stable entity incorporating opposed energy signatures might theoretically provide template for dimensional stabilization techniques. Security countermeasures adapting. Mirais warned as her projected data began destabilizing. Connection degrading rapidly. Can you determine their home dimension coordinates? Goly asked urgently. If they're targeting this reality specifically, we need to locate their origin point. Attempting extraction of dimensional frequency markers, Mirais confirmed, her cybernetic enhancements working at maximum capacity. Partial sequence identified before connection failure. The holographic projection collapsed as security protocols finally overcame Mirais's intrusion attempts. She staggered slightly from neural feedback, quickly stabilized by Valera's supporting hand. Are you all right? Goly asked with genuine concern. Systems recalibrating, Mirais confirmed, her voice temporarily showing slight mechanical distortion before normalizing. Neural feedback contained before permanent damage occurred. Extracted data preserved despite connection termination. What did you learn? Kyla asked. Air dimensional coordinates exist outside standard cartographic reference framework, Mirais explained, referencing internal data. But frequency patterns suggest location within what cosmic cartograph PHERS designate as negative boundary zone, theoretical space existing between conventional dimensional planes. The void margins, Zia translated, her formal demeanor showing rare disturbance. NCIL records classify that region under highest security protocols. Access restricted even to Guardian-class entities without special authorization. Which explains how they've developed technology beyond conventional dimensional understanding, Goly concluded. Operating from a region where reality itself follows different fundamental principles. As they processed these disturbing revelations, the neutralized entities suddenly began showing signs of reactivation, power signatures fluctuating as recovery protocols engaged. More concerning, their physical forms began demonstrating unusual deterioration patterns, cellular structures literally dissolving while technological components entered accelerated decay cycle. Self-destruction sequence activated, Mirais identified immediately. Remote triggered failsafe protocol preventing capture and analysis. Can it be stopped? Valera asked, already attempting energy containment techniques. Negative. Process operates at quantum level. Complete molecular disintegration inevitable within approximately 47 seconds. Goalie made quick decision based on integrated tactical assessment. Zia, can you establish dimensional containment field? We need to prevent whatever energy release might accompany their disintegration from causing additional instability. The Guardian nodded, immediately implementing formal protocols that established shimmering barrier around deteriorating entities. Within this controlled space, the disintegration process accelerated, organic components reducing to base molecular structures while technological elements separated into constituent materials before both disappeared entirely in brief flash of dimensional energy. When dissolution completed, nothing remained, not even residual matter, only empty space where advanced biotechnological entities had existed moments before. Complete conversion to energy state followed by dimensional reabsorption, Zia observed with professional concern. Extremely advanced dissolution methodology beyond conventional technological capabilities. They didn't want to leave evidence, Kyla summarized practically. Or samples we could study. Which conference? ERM's sophisticated operational security protocols beyond opportunistic invaders, Goalie noted. This was coordinated incursion by advanced interdimensional organization with specific objectives and contingency measures. As they gathered their equipment and prepared to return to the tournament grounds, each processing implications of their discoveries, Goalie found himself confronting unsettling conclusions. His creation, the fusion event that had given him existence, had apparently attracted attention from beyond conventional dimensional boundaries. Entities with technology capable of breaching reality itself considered him acquisition target for mysterious convergence engine project. More immediately concerning, the tournament island apparently sat atop region of dimensional instability significant enough to facilitate multiple breach points. While they had successfully contained today's incursion, the underlying weakness remained, potentially susceptible to future exploitation by our organization or others with similar capabilities. We should inform the others, he decided as they launched into flight formation. Piccolo, Vegeta, Gohan, they need to understand the nature of this threat in case additional incursions occur while we're investigating more permanent countermeasures. Agreed, Valera confirmed. Though comprehensive response will require resources beyond those immediately available on Earth. My colony possesses extensive theoretical research on dimensional boundary mechanics, she continued thoughtfully. Combined with Guardian protocols and your unique dimensional resonance capabilities, we might develop more permanent defensive measures against future breach attempts. The Council must be formally notified regarding void margin incursion, Zia stated. Such events trigger mandatory reporting requirements under Cosmic Security Directive 7 Alpha. And while the cosmic bureaucracy processes paperwork, Kyla noted with practical cynicism, we show LD probably figure out how to stop more of those things from showing up at populated locations. I can develop enhanced monitoring network using modified versions of my current sensor array, Mirais offered. Early detection system allowing preemptive response before breaches fully manifest. As they continued toward tournament grounds, discussing response strategies and defensive preparations, Goalie found himself reflecting on how quickly his existence had become centered in cosmic conflict. Less than a week since the fusion event that created him, he already faced interdimensional threats, pacifically targeting him for qualities unique to his integrated nature. Yet despite these complications, he felt no regret or resistance to his new identity. If anything, the challenges reinforced his emerging sense of purpose. Neither Goku nor Broly alone would have perceived the dimensional mechanics with sufficient clarity to coordinate effective response. His unique integrated perspective provided capabilities precisely suited for threats operating beyond conventional dimensional understanding. The tournament grounds came into view below, activity suggesting limited resumption of normal Operations despite morning's dramatic interruption. Officials and maintenance crews assessed structural damage while security personnel maintained expanded perimeter around areas most affected by dimensional disturbances. They landed near the administrative building, where familiar energy signatures indicated gathering of Earth's defenders. Piccolo, Gohan, Vegeta and others apparently already engaged in discussion of morning's events. Time to brief the local defense force, Kyla observed as they approached the building. Think they'll believe interdimensional invaders are targeting the planet specifically because you exist? They've faced stranger situations, Goku replied with slight smile. Though usually not quite so personally connected to dimensional mathematics. Your existence defies conventional parameters. Valera noted thoughtfully. Natural fusion events at quantum level simply don't occur without external catalysts. The fact that you not only formed but stabilized completely represents statistical impossibility according to known dimensional constants. Perhaps that's precisely why these entities took notice, Mirais theorized as they reached the building entrance. Your existence proves theoretical possibilities they're attempting to artificially replicate through Convergence Engine project. Which makes you simultaneously their most valuable research subject and potentially their greatest threat, Kyla concluded with characteristic directness. If you represent natural version of what they're trying to build, then I might be the key to understanding why their approach will fail. Goku finished the thought, grasping implications immediately. And possibly how to stop them if necessary. This perspective crystallized something important in Hi's emerging identity. A purpose unique to his integrated existence, neither following Goku's protective heroism nor rejecting Broly's isolated potential, but synthesizing both into something more suited to threats operating beyond conventional dimensional understanding. As they entered the building to join others already gathered, Goku felt new clarity about his path forward. The tournament had provided initial framework for testing his capabilities, but these dimensional incursions revealed more significant calling. One that would require not just his power but his unique perspective as being existing between conventional definitions. The world needed Goku not because he combined the strengths of two legendary warriors, but because he represented something entirely new, a harmonious integra. Tion that might provide template for addressing disharmony threatening multiple dimensions. With this understanding guiding him, he prepared to explain the morning's discoveries to Earth's defenders. The first step in what promised to be much larger journey into realms where reality itself followed different rules, and where his very existence represented both target and solution to forces beyond conventional understanding. Chapter 3 End.